In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What is the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor. They call me Tony Dunn, and I'm here with the crew on the C3 Panthers Podcast. It's Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, right on the dot. We're starting ready, fired up for a new season of the C3 Panthers Podcast. We're hitting season number 8. It's episode number 2 of the season, and tonight's show is Careful Stepper Tepper. I think that's it. We can revise it if you guys like. We're going to be talking about the recent comments from David Tepper about Cam Newton and how they've got us all kind of shook and kind of puzzled. Each week we swing back and forth like a pendulum based on the future of the Carolina Panthers and the direction of that they're going in regards to Cam Newton, and we're going to break it down for you tonight. You can be a part of the show by calling in to the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. And you can talk with the crew. First up on the mic, Cody Lashney, my man, the man who's going to lose a bet to me, but he's the man with the master plan. How you doing tonight?
Well, Tony, we all know that whenever you and I have a disagreement, I'm normally always right. And the fans know that too, baby. But listen, man, there's never a moment in time when I don't love talking Panther football. We're here year-round, off-season, season. It doesn't matter. We're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers, and we have the most lit Panther fans on YouTube joining us every Tuesday, and they're joining us tonight. Nick Montiero, Susan Deans, Underground West, Trill One, John Kidco Barrera, Alex Stark, Brad Dugan, Tony Dunn. The whole crew is in the house. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
The Bat Daddy, a.k.a. the Stat Daddy in the house. My man, how you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm doing well, dude. It's Tuesday. This is the only thing to look forward to on Tuesdays. I'm off tomorrow, so I'm going to drink, talk some Panthers football, and have a good time.
Right on. Well, that's good news. I feel like this is every week I should ask Greg, have you been punched in the face this week? By a crazy old man. No, he hasn't. He's healthy. He's good. And you can check out his podcast as well, the Super Civil Servants podcast. You guys record on Fridays, drop on Mondays. And Greg, speaking of superheroes, one of my favorite Reddit threads is shower thoughts. And one of the kind of ideas is I wonder if superheroes wear capes to hide the zipper of their onesie. I thought it was funny. Obviously, people who love superheroes do not. And we've got CK in the house. My man, are you at home yet?
No, I'm driving. But here's what I'll tell you. After a long day of working, there's nothing more I love to do than unwind with my boys and actually enjoy the chat with those listening live. But, something we don't do enough. I'm going to shout out those people who can't be here live and are listening over the week. I appreciate you guys as well. I was one of you for a while there, so, I appreciate all you guys.
iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, smash the thumbs up button. Hit the little bell to be notified, particularly as Cody and CK embark in trying to figure out who will be the next Carolina Panther through the draft. I know these guys are going to be working up some stuff in the future. And I got to say, CK, I love talking to you on Tuesday nights, but don't call me from work.
Don't call you from work? Oh, yeah, I got you. Yeah. No, listen, I get off time technically, so we're good.
Don't call me from work because that means that my wife has not paid the credit card bill. And I am probably, maybe I should ice up myself tonight, is I just choose to not look at my finances because I'm like, I just hope my wife is doing all right with it.
Maybe if I forget about it, it'll go away.
You're one of the best consumers, right?
Yeah, exactly. I give my wife, it's probably not a good idea. All right, guys, tonight's show is going to be, we're kind of going to be kicking it off, off the fly, but let's go ahead and start with the top news. and that is some reason David Tepper was on the mic today, and I think it was because it had to do with the MLS announcements and the things they're doing with that. But of course, when you own a football team, nobody cares about soccer. So what do? They ask about Cam Newton. Here's David Tepper being asked about Cam Newton. Hopefully audio works just fine.
I don't hear anything.
Oh, you don't hear anything? Oh, all right. I forgot. Hold on. I got it.
About his
We'll
trade possibility, if he's available for trade, and if so, was that something that you'd be open for?
Hold on.
I could.
Let's restart. You're right. I turned off the music earlier. Here we go. This is David Tepper, hopefully.
Said again and again and again about it's a question of how healthy his foot and otherwise, and that's still the number one overwhelming thing, to see how healthy he is and how we can figure out when he's healthy or not. And everything comes from that.
Dave, have other teams reached out inquiring about his trade possibility, if he's available for trade, and if so, was that something that you'd be open for?
I could ask Nicole. She answers the phone in her house, but no, I haven't heard about that. So
Cam said he absolutely would be back this year at the Super Bowl.
did you talk to Nicole? I told you.
I'm just saying that Cam's saying he'll absolutely be
She's
back.
He's asking this question.
So if he said he's
That's what I
absolutely
wanna
going to be
know.
back, and he was inspired by conversations with you and Rule, where do you stand? Will you think he'll be back?
Listen, I'm not a doctor. And I said it a million times. Is he healthy? And how does? He's not a doctor. So there's a lot of different things can happen. But first is he healthy? Tell me that, and then we can talk.
You've made a lot of MLS.
That's it, guys.
All right. Was that David Newton coming in there?
That was indeed David Newton's stupid voice. Yeah.
Hey, but how about this? Is nice for David Newton for asking the tough question, right? He came back after Tepper because there is a need for clarification on that comment. And let me say this. We're not doctors, but we've got the prescription on the C3 Panthers podcast, and that is Cam Newton, folks. He is the prescription, the medicine I need in my life to make me feel better. It's why I've been sad for the last 2 damn years. But I'm going to open the mic to you guys. Cody, you sent me this video. You watched it before I did. How do you feel after seeing this?
Basically, this is what we've been saying for months now, that we're not going to get any answers one way or the other anytime soon. I think it was, frankly, kind of a blessing in disguise that we even got Cam Newton talking about it. And like I said, I kind of maintained my own little conspiracy theory that Cam Newton being so confident about his ability to return next year for the Panthers, a lot of it was forcing the hand of the Carolina Panthers and say, look, the fans want me here. I want to be here. This is where I want to be. And if the Panthers decide to do anything other than keep Cam Newton next year, well, then now they have to be the bad guys. But, I'm at the point where I don't blame David Tepper for being non-committal. I just think that right now it's too early to give any definitives on this is what we're going to do, this is what we're not going to do. So much of this conversation is how much of a market is there for Cam Newton if Cam Newton is out there on the market. And I think that's a legitimate question. But right now, I don't know why fans are so upset at David Tepper. If you want to come away with whatever answer you want to glean from those words, by all means, go ahead. But David Tepper was never going to say anything more than this, and I don't know why people were expecting more than this.
Okay, I don't think we needed more information. I think the presentation of the information is probably what some of us are upset with. And really what it goes from is each week the pendulum swings about what we think the proper or what will happen with Cam Newton. 1 week he's coming back, the next week he's leaving. 1 week he's coming back, the next week we're trading him. Every single week it's something different. And when it comes to me on this is I don't know. All right, I want to go back to real quick before we turn the mic over to your point about the conspiracy theory, because Cody, I think there's a lot to that, and I think that Cam Newton now, if we see this, if the Panthers truly are kind of cold, you shouldering him a little. Cam Newton took a page from Greg Olsen and Thomas Davis, and he went straight to the people. And that's what he did. He was able to say, hey, if this happens, it won't me. It was this team. And I think that does ingratiate him with the fans to a certain degree. Now, go into Greg. Greg, how do you feel as you've listened to this? You told me that you listened to it a couple of times.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of where I see your point, Cody. I'm the guy you're talking about that is mad, and I'll explain to you why. Is because if you listen to the way he talks in the speech in this interview, and it's kind of the reason you named the careful stepper Tepper is because he's dancing around questions and he's talking very much like a lawyer being interrogated. He is being very careful about what he says, and there's a couple things that bother me about it. One is that he's saying when Cam gets healthy, whenever he gets healthy, we'll know more. But he's not telling about what he knows more about. He said everything depends on Cam's health, right? But what are you talking about depends on Cam's health? You talking about you trading him being our quarterback? And what I'm upset about, and you're right, Cody, he doesn't have to give us any more information, is this guy's under contract for one more year. If he's healthy, why would you not be moving forward in trying to? I mean, he's under contract. Why would you not be moving forward and at least go with the mindset of we're going to be moving forward with Cam Newton, even if you decide to do something different later? Give yourself a direction to go right now, and maybe he does have that. He just don't want to give it to us. But the other thing that bothered me was he was talking about just being health, and like I was talking to Cody beforehand, Cam had surgery on December 11th. It's a 5 to 6 month recovery on average. So if you say 7 months, that puts you in July. So there should be no reason that Cam Newton's not fully physically healthy by that point. Maybe
it doesn't
make
it's like they're acting like he is like coming back from cancer or something.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So the fact that you can't see that he's going to be fully physically healthy, then he may not be what he ever was again. There's a chance of that. But if you've got him under contract for one more year and you know that by the beginning of next season he's going to be fully physically healthy, why are you saying now everything depends on his health? Because you know, I mean, you got him under contract, he's going to be healthy. Let him play another year and build the team around that. If he doesn't do well, then you move forward. But you're not going to get Cam Newton's ceiling anywhere else for $19 million. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, you're not. And, a few weeks ago I came on the show and said, I laid out why, even though I love Cam Newton, I can read the tea leaves here. It just doesn't, nothing about this entire situation has felt like or feels like Cam Newton is going to be the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers next year. That's not what I want, but who gives a shit what I want? No one. Right. Especially with David Tepper. And this is the thing, man. Just from a realistic perspective, I understand why David Tepper says, well, why would I be 100% committal to Cam Newton? Cam Newton's injury has been one of the key factors and the reason why this team underperformed 2 years in a row. So
but anybody can get injured.
But no, and that's a fantastic point. But I mean, I'm kind of just echoing what you said. Like, none of this feels like a scenario where anyone is really being favorable towards the idea of Cam Newton coming back. I will say one reason why I am disappointed that they aren't more committal to Cam Newton is because if you actually had the intention to trade Cam Newton, well, you want that team, whoever that team is, to believe that the Carolina Panthers find some value in Cam Newton. So much value that they believe he is a starting level quarterback no matter where he goes in the NFL, that even the Panthers would consider him to be the starter for them next year. Because then if the other team knows that you don't value Cam Newton that much anyway and you're waiting for your opportunity to move away from him, then they're going to lowball you. They're going to give you a third-round pick maybe even fourth or fifth. Like they're not going to give you any of the type of collateral in a trade that you would need to rebuild your football team.
Listen to this comment from Susan Deans. Tepper sure has made a decision to raise my ticket prices from $1,900 to $2,500 this season. I wish he was as decisive about Cam as he is about business.
That's insane. Off of a losing, like back-to-back losing seasons. That's absolutely astronomical. Like how many times, I can't recall, and I could be wrong, but I understand ticket prices being high when there's something for us to see, right? And if you're raising the prices to $2,500 and you're still getting rid of Cam Newton, there's a problem that
if you're going to tank and if you're raising ticket prices and you're going to tank, come on.
Yeah, that's an issue, and that is something that I would personally tell you I am not a fan of. And I think what Tepper has done, he's been very smart. He's started off with the things to get him in the good graces of fans, and now he's actually making the decisions that make sense for his pocketbook, and making sure that this isn't an investment, that this comes across as an investment. It is not just a football team. It is an investment for him, which it should be. Granted, as much money as he spent for it. One of the things, and before I say this, I'm going to blame what I'm about to say on my love of video games and Marvel movies. I posted in our messages a picture that Cam Newton posted of to kind of, it's him walking out of a building. On the left side, it's kind of like torn. It's like different colors on either side, and so one side is blue, and the other side is green. And me being the person who's looking for an Easter egg in anything in life now because of Marvel, I see Cam Newton walking away from blue and towards green, which means, in my opinion, money. Or you could also look at it from, because Baylor's green, right? Like, I almost wonder if that has something to do with the Matt Rule thing.
Is that Matt Rule in the door? I want you to go back and look at that. Where is he leaving? Number one, there was some guy. It must be. It's like the doorman, but it almost looks like it's definitely not Matt Rule. He's wearing a suit. There's no way.
The outfit is the same outfit he was wearing in the interview he did at the Super Bowl. So that might be him at the Super Bowl.
I mean, guys, we're trying to read Egyptian hieroglyphics here. I mean, come on, we're trying to find patterns in this. And look, I get it, but I mean, dude, I just think that there's no way if it's Cam Newton to David Tepper, I just think that there is not anyone in the world who knows what's really going to happen, and that's what's frustrating. Because as much as we don't know, the people in power, even Cam Newton himself, they don't know what's going to happen.
So my question, and I'll have to go radio silent after this statement, just for a little while. Do we find out before the draft, or is this going to be a draft time decision?
I think this decision is going to be what makes it what we do in the draft. Like, based on what we do, it has to be before the draft. You have to at least know what you're going to do before the draft. Maybe not make a move, at least have a plan of what you're going to do with Cam Newton. Because
do you wait for that desperation? Because if you wait till that last second, people are going to be willing. They're going to be like, all right, I'm on the clock. I need to close this before we get to a point to where I can't. And so I feel like last second is when desperation comes calling. And if the Panthers get an offer that they can't refuse, obviously they might make a play to move Cam Newton for draft picks. But if not, I mean, if let's say they wait until their pick and everybody's off the board, right? There's nobody else that they like as far as a quarterback, so there's no point in them letting Cam Newton walk at that point in time. The value they're getting an offer for Cam by that point isn't worth them letting him walk out the door for the salary that he's being paid this year. I mean, I personally think that this is a draft day decision, like a Josh Rosen type thing.
Yeah, maybe, but Cam can't walk out the door though. He's under contract for 1 more year. He can't.
I'm not talking about Cam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
I'm
right,
talking
so
about.
just to complicate this thing for you, CK, couple of things. Is number one is I continue to hear is that I thought this rumor was going away, but something about Joe Burrow's family doesn't like him going to Cincinnati. I heard this on Dan Patrick that rumors were swirling about this. So you have the question about continuing to loom with Cincinnati. You saw a Jason Lockham-4 report that talked about trading Cam to Cincinnati, and he was saying for Andy Dalton, which is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Yeah. But I also was listening to Outkick the Coverage today with Clay Travis, and he said this, is he straight up said that since the Chargers are not going to have Phillip Rivers next year, that no fans are showing up. They have, unless they go, the only choices the Chargers have is to draft somebody like Tua, move up and get Tua to drum up some excitement. Or, he said, why don't you bring in a Cam Newton? Because that could help seats right there. But I tell you this, Justin Herbert, who they could pick at 6, is he going to put butts in the seats next year? The LA Chargers might not be a team if they don't start selling some tickets.
And this is what I said a few weeks ago, that if any team made sense to me in a trade, it would be the Chargers. I mean, listen, what happens if they have they have around $50-something million to spend in free agency. So they have enough money for Cam Newton. They have enough money to even get some players to put around him. I mean, shit, what if they say, hey, give us Cam Newton for our first-round pick, and then the Panthers have the 6th and the 7th pick in the draft. Take Justin Herbert and Andrew Thomas, the tackle from Georgia, and you get a franchise quarterback.
How could you get 2 picks? How could you get there first? Wouldn't you have to give Cam to move up 1 spot?
Well, I mean, you have 2 top 10 picks back to back because they would give their first round. And then that way you're not handicapping them, because if you just offer a first rounder, they still have all the other rounds to draft whoever the hell they want. And you would get another
and they get their quarterback.
I don't see how you would get their pick and keep your pick.
Because you're not trading your pick to them. You're giving them Cam Newton for their 6th pick. So you keep your 7th. So then you'd have their 6th and our 7th.
Right.
I think they would demand our 7th and Cam to move up 1 spot.
No,
That's
because then they're getting just the 7th pick and Cam Newton. Which
is the opposite of what we're getting if we did it the other way. So I guess
we would get the guy. If you wanted Herbert, you would get that guy, which I still think this is insane. I think that trying to move on from Cam for Justin Herbert would be a shit show. I think it's a terrible idea. Here, let me complicate this a little bit by playing this.
I'm sure you guys heard the information.
Can I just actually,
or heard the news of Cam Newton possibly coming to the Chargers?
Because it's about what we're talking about. I don't know how long it'll take you to rip it, but
I think it's the one I'm about to play. And
what
let me see. Is it the Sean Merriman?
Y'all do this. I gotta go put the
the Sean Merriman.
Let me see if I can get it. I didn't prepare for it. Hold on, but I found it real quick.
I'll be right back, fellas. Gotta put the kids together.
So what the hell is the name of this video? Tepper on Cam staying Spanish. Why is it not there? Let me see if I play it.
Said again and again and again
that's
about
this
question
that's
of
not the one I want.
And otherwise, and that's still the number.
All right. So, okay. Now tell me this, Cody, is continue to move on with the Cam discussion, is that with Tepper, why do you think he's being overly non-committal? Why wouldn't he be like this a little bit more? Wrong time of year. It's the wrong time of year for me to answer that question. We aren't answering any questions about personnel decisions till closer to the point where we can actually make those decisions. Why in the world would he be so? I think he's almost giving too much information.
Yeah, I do. I do too. It's. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say that it's giving up too much information, but it's the safest thing to say because it's non-committal. I mean, you can't ruffle too many feathers saying we don't know what we're going to do yet. We don't know if Cam Newton. And by the way, it's another thing. They don't get to comment on what they think about Cam Newton as a player because they get to say, no, well, this is a health thing. We don't know how healthy Cam Newton is, so we can't say that he's going to be the quarterback of the future if we don't have a clean bill of health knowing that he's healthy. And partly I don't blame them for that. But then in the same breath, like I said earlier, you want to create some sort of illusion that you're interested in Cam Newton being the quarterback for the Panthers. Especially, one, your fans love him. I mean, damn, dude, the Panthers fans, we put up billboards, keep Cam in Carolina around the stadium, voted him Walter Payton Man of the Year. Like, we love us some Cam Newton. But, like what Greg was saying, if you're going to put butts in seats, it's a bad move to not have him. But also, if you do intend to trade him, you want those trading partners to believe that you find there to be worth in Cameron Newton. And nothing that they're doing right now says that they're even, as long as they're able to say it's about health, they don't have to fall on the spikes about anything. And it's really trying to avoid all of the...
So you're diverting a conversation about whether or not you just want Cam to be the future of your franchise by continuing to shroud it with this, to cloak it with this discussion of health. Thank you, Susan Dean, for the super chat. She said, I will support my C3 family always, even if I'm broke for my season tickets. Yeah, Susan, you are going to be broke from those season tickets because it's going to be harder and harder to sell them if we're tanking each and every week. Now, let's go to this. As Christina Aguilar says, because no one knows if Cam can be healthy, everyone's taking it for granted that he will be ready to go, and he hasn't been full healthy for quite some time. I understand not seeing Cam for a long time. But what I think is that these are unrelated issues, unrelated injuries. Now, if we think that, I'm so tired of him, people on the national media saying he's just taking such a beating and that's why his body's breaking down. This foot injury was a freak injury. Right now, I'll grant you the shoulder is concerning because the second cleanup had us worried, right? But it still seemed like with that additional time off, I do believe this is that it would be foolish. It's almost fantasy footballish to forget who Cam is as a player. And just because we haven't seen it in a moment, and I see this each and every year, Cody, in fantasy football, the rankings for players next year will be 100% based off of this season's performance. They will forget guys that had injuries, that played on bad teams, and they will go with the guys who put up numbers. And every year, that's why you draft whatever running back first that doesn't turn out, because it's a different year and a different team. I just think it would be weird for us to believe that Cam Newton is done. Because that's really kind of what you're arguing is you're on the back end. We've seen the best. And I don't know if I truly believe that, Cody. He's young.
That's what who's arguing.
People who say move on from Cam.
Yeah. I thought you were saying that's what I'm saying.
But like the argument that we should move on really implies that you've seen the best of Cam.
Yeah, well, I think it also kind of plays off this tired narrative that we've been fighting against, that Cam Newton is like this average, subpar, middle of the pack quarterback with one outlier season in 2015.
Oh, it's bullshit. It's so bullshit.
Even the Pro Football Focus guys believe that shit. I mean, that shows you that a lot of this data is soulless. It doesn't account.
I mean, it's like polls.
Yeah. Shut up, Tony. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just I don't know, man. It's definitely the weird. And all of my years being a Panther fan, I don't remember ever there being a time that felt like this, where there is so much uncertainty. No one knows what's going to happen. There's so many different options. I mean, it's a good thing for me. Shameless plug here. There's a brand new mock draft out tomorrow on drafttech.com. And I'm in a great scenario because I get to talk about a bunch of different players because there's so many different directions that we can go in the draft. And then you add on all this about Cam Newton and Greg and Luke leaving the team abruptly. It's just such a weird time, man, to be a Panther fan.
All right, check this out here. Also muddying the waters with Cam Newton, Sean Merriman, the former San Diego Charger.
I'm sure you guys heard the information or heard the news of Cam Newton possibly coming to the Chargers. I spoke to Cam about it down in Miami at the Super Bowl. And that conversation will remain private unless a media outlet want to pay me for my story. But I think it'll be a great move. Obviously, everybody know my love for Phillip, and we'll hope that he will come back and stay with the Chargers and retire with the team. But if that's not the case, I'm all for it. I think Cam Newton come in and get you some wins. Upgrade, certain aspects of the team. Going into a new stadium, I think that works out well. I'm all for it.
All right, that's Sean Merriman. The thing that's funny about that, Cody, is he replied to Pat Coltrane. Pat Coltrane said, "You sound dumb. Sit down," or something like that. Sit down. Told him to sit down. He said, "I'm sitting." And Sean Merriman wrote him back and said, "I'm sitting beside your mom."
Dude.
Okay, I want to shout out Michael Jones for his super chat, $4.99. Thank you for supporting the C3 Panthers podcast. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button, folks. He says, "Name 3 free agents who will definitely return next year." And this is going to be.
We might not have one, huh?
Right, we might not have one. We are going to be expanding on this when the guys return because we've got part of the show tonight is each person is going to suggest 3 moves that they would make as the GM of the Panthers in trying to find the direction of this team. But let's address this question while we're here, Cody. And right now, unrestricted free agents for the Carolina Panthers: Mario Addison, Trey Boston, James Bradbury, Vernon Butler, Ross Cockrell, Javian Elliott, Chris Hogan, Wes Horton retired, he doesn't count anymore, Bruce Irvin, Kyle Love, Gerald McCoy, Stacey McGee, Greg Van Roten, Darrell Williams. I will name one on that list that I think will be here, and that is Ross Cockrell. I also think it would not be a terrible idea of trying to find a way to keep Trey Boston, but I think it will cost more than you want to pay for his up and down play. But what Trey Boston offers you is not even just his play on the field. He's like the only guy that has like a soul and a personality to lead the team at the moment. I'm gonna say Ross Cockrell, who played pretty well coming off a devastating injury from the year before. We had high hopes from him 2 years ago. I think he could be an addition, like a rotational player, particularly if you're unable to keep Bradbury. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Do you think, I'm guessing you're going to say Bradbury or Gerald McCoy?
Yeah, I'd say Gerald McCoy. And I think one of the things that we've said on here is that so much of the idea going into last year was that we would have Dontari Poe in the middle and K'Wan Short and Gerald McCoy on either side of them, or both sides of them. And we really didn't get to see that. We had 2 games of that this year, and that was about it. In my mind, I could easily see the Panthers front office moving to re-sign a lot of players, just in an effort to assure that there isn't a hole there. So, like for example, people that I don't think are going to command top dollar, Greg Van Roten. I mean, he's not a big name guard or anything like that. So I think he's probably the name that will come back. Gerald McCoy is someone I could easily see coming back. How about this? We have another year of option on Dontari Poe's contract. And again, none of these names might excite you. They might not get you all riled up, but you're just trying to get to a point where you don't go into the draft needing a million different positions. You can't have to have a guard and a defensive tackle, and you need a corner, and you need this. Like, if you're not able to hit on every one of those positions of need in the draft, then you have these major holes on your football team. So, I mean, in my mind, if I had to pick 3 of them, I would say Ross Cockrell is as depth in the backfield. I'd say Gerald McCoy is someone who I think would come back for a reasonable contract. And dude, I'm not even so sure that we've seen the last of Dontari Poe. I mean, I really think they might decide to run back our defensive line for another year, maybe add another player or 2 in the draft, and just hope that they're healthier this year than they were last year.
This sort of reminds me, I'm trying to think, was it 2013? If it was 2013, that's good news because we went 12-4. Or 2014, we had something like 19 unrestricted free agents. It was the year we let Ted Ginn go the first time. And
2018, right?
No, first time. So it might have been 2014. It might have been 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
Because he went to Arizona for a year, right? And then, but we had so many free agents, and we had less cap money then. So we do have more ability to maneuver this. CK, it sounded like you're in the house, man. In his crib, he's got his fancy whiteboard, magnetic board behind him.
Yep.
And the question that was asked to us before you got in was Michael Jones said name 3 free agents. Yeah. And are there anybody on that list that you think that the Panthers should and would or could re-sign? And Reggie Bonifant doesn't count. We didn't say his name, but he's already re-signed. That could be our third.
And Joey Sly.
Yay.
I would say.
Yay.
I would say that obviously Gerald McCoy comes to mind. We don't have a surefire leader on the team. I really, and I know there are people that don't believe in him. I still think we need Bradbury, but unfortunately, by what I've heard, it doesn't sound like he even wants to be here. Like, I mean, just based on some of the things he's saying, like, I'd love to play for Coach
Rivera
again, or and so I mean, it kind of brings this sense of of uncertainty in our secondary as well, because I mean, Dante Jackson hasn't really taken that step forward that we've been looking for, but I still think that we need him. I guess, I mean, I'm just going to go with it because I really don't know who else on that list, has a chance of making it. But Ross Cockrell for sure.
Yeah, that's who I like. Is someone said in the chat room that Trey Boston's going to ask for the bag, and he's been asking to get paid, and nobody's going to pay him. So you might as well go to a team that will give you a little bit of money. Maybe somebody will pay him, but he didn't make the Pro Bowl or nothing like that. Like he did when he was in the era with the Chargers. So it's not, I mean, I don't know how much he can command, but I would I am worried. The good news is we got Eric Reed back there, because look at what everybody paid in the free agency market last year for strong safeties with Landon Collins and this. That's what I want us to think about when we look at this list of guys that we want to keep. And I think that Cody is alluding to that a little bit with Dontari Poe, but I think his injury is too big of a deal. It was a big...
His age.
Yeah, it was like a torn thigh muscle, which is tough. Hey, I don't know how you recover from that, but I do think one of the things you have to keep in mind is when you look at some of these guys, some of these positions commands more money in free agency than others. So if you could retain some guys for a hometown discount, a little bit of a hometown discount, so you don't want to go out there and try to get a defensive end in free agency, or you could. It's just going to cost a lot. So it might be better to kind of fill the gaps a little bit with a corner, with a nickel corner, with a free safety, with a third receiver, something to that effect. So that's where I'm at on that. Now that Greg is back, we can move on to the next segment of the show, and that is, and very related to this question, is that we are searching for direction when it comes to the Carolina Panthers. We want to hear what direction you want to go in. Call the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. Batista AC Man says Eric Reed is trash. And I was completely on the other side of the fence, but he really, as the season wore on last year, he did not play that great, but nobody did, and he was nursing an injury, I believe, for 2 years, it seems like. But
I'll say with that before we move on, it's a quick statement. The the safety position is not meant to catch the run that much.
Good point.
It's there should not be somebody running free to the secondary that often from the backfield.
Well, he was our best run stopper probably on the whole damn team.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
let's keep in mind that Eric Reed
is a box safety.
That linebacker, nickel type, big body type of safety, and we don't play him at free. But yeah, I don't know. But again, I would caution people before we start tearing down everyone. Like, no one played great last year.
Yeah.
No one played great, so it's hard for me to.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Like, what are we going to do the same thing? Dante Jackson and Eric Reed. Like, there are people that are already done with Dante. Like, oh well, he keeps on blowing assignments. They benched him, and I mean, all that's true. But one of the things I was saying is I think that a lot of it is to do with coaching, and hopefully we have guys that'll better coach these players up now.
I think our secondary, particularly with Eric Reed, and like CK said, is that so much of that was less indicative about his play. At times, I mean, he was getting burned at times and different things, but who are the pieces around you sometimes, and do they enhance your play, or do they tease out the weaknesses of your game at that moment, or whatever it is? And we were unable to stop the run. The linebackers just were not able to be as effective last year without those center defensive tackles in that 3-4 stopping the run. There were problems. There were systematic problems. Now, when it comes to Dante Jackson, though, I do believe that people's concerns are warranted for this, is that you could say it's a sophomore slump. But I think we are so influenced by the picture that was painted about Dante Jackson in that Amazon Prime series, and what we saw was a continuation of that attitude, it seemed like, rather than an improvement on that personality or whatever it may be. Do you agree that we are influenced, that has some influence into why people are souring on Dante Jackson?
It kind of has to, doesn't it? I think whenever, again, there are certain positions that whenever you lose a matchup, dude, that's what stands out the most. For example, offensive line, you never talk about offensive line until they're getting their ass whooped and you notice it. well, we have these moments where.
That's why we're always talking about the offensive line on this show.
Yeah, right. So, it's like one of those things where, okay, we have this episode with Dante Jackson and Antonio Brown the year before, and last year he was benched. I mean, I think that, I understand the frustration, but there really is you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, there's so many moving parts to this. No one played particularly well, and you cannot tell me that all the people on our team are as god awful as they've been playing.
Yeah,
I mean,
The Ken867 with a good comment in the YouTube chat. Thanks for your support, Ken. He says Reed is solid. Jackson has the athleticism, needs the coaching. Dude is from nothing, making big money. Got a little kid, needs good coaching to help him be the best. And one of the good things is I think we're bringing in the types of people that can speak well to that younger generation and those personalities.
Agreed.
Not even personalities, but the ability to relate to younger men who are going through a lot of these transitions. And one of the reasons I truly believe that this is the case is it Robbie Anderson from the New York Jets, the wide receiver? Mm-hmm. Is that his name?
Yeah, Robbie Anderson.
Former Baylor player under Matt Rule, and has nothing but said the world of how Matt Rule gave a lot up for him, like committed to him as really gave so much for him, got him back into school, just went the extra mile, and wouldn't be surprised if that's a name that is circling around the Carolina Panthers as we head into this free agency. I do think he will be more expensive than he may be worth. Now let's move on to that segment. Greg, the Bat Daddy, said, let's play GM. You get 3 picks. You get 3 decisions for the Panthers moving forward before the draft. I assume before the draft, but maybe some of these things include the draft. Greg, we're going to let you start this segment and tell us what you had in mind about what we're going to be talking about, and then give us an example of how we're going to do it.
Okay. Well, and this is a kind of a exercise that I kind of we're stealing a little bit from the Around the NFL podcast, but doing it slightly differently, but it's the same kind of deal. We're basically just going to be if you could do 3 things as the GM tomorrow, for the Panthers, what would you do? And I kind of focused mine on moving forward next season and setting ourselves up for the draft. So if I'm the GM, the first thing I'm going to do is figure out Cam Newton, because like I said, he's going to be healthy. Figure out if you're going to go forward with this guy or not, and move with that. And then I would attack 2 free agents, and I would be very aggressive. And there's more guys we could go after if we needed to, because there's plenty of guys in free agency this year. It's insane going through the list. But there's 2 guys in particular I would attack for one particular reason. I would go linebacker, because we just lost Luke Kuechly. We need somebody in there who's young and a solid linebacker. And there's one guy out there from Cleveland, Joe Sherbert, or Scobert, however you say his name. Solid linebacker, only in the league 3 years. I think I was just looking at his stats. I think he has, in 3 years, 400 and something tackles, 7 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. He had 4 interceptions last year, so he's a good coverage linebacker. He's not as good in the run defense, but he's a good coverage linebacker. And we need somebody out there to fill that hole that Luke just left. And I like Shaq Thompson, but I don't think Shaq Thompson can do it. I think he's a good secondary piece to a leader on the defense.
Cody, look up his what Spot Rack says he should get paid. Go ahead, Greg, and continue with your point.
Okay. And then the second guy I would go after is
which one is this again?
His name is something. Tell us his name again.
Joe Scobert, Schobert.
Okay.
Okay, and then the second guy I would go after is Anthony Costanzo, the left tackle from the Colts. He's not that young, but he's also not very old. I think he's 30. He's been pretty solid for the Colts for the last few years. He was that's a position that if we can shore that position up and we're going to bring Cam Newton back, I would feel a whole lot better about the situation. He needs to cover that blind side. But I would do those. And then lastly, black helmets. Give me some black helmets.
I like that.
You know,
I like
I
that.
want some black helmets. They'll look so good, but that's about it. Just 3 things that I think could impact the team immediately, because black helmets make you look intimidating, unless you're a Falcon.
All right.
But
Joe Schobert was a Pro Bowler last year or this past year.
that's what I'm saying. He's a good linebacker. He really is, and he's young.
Yeah. Okay, I know. Okay.
And linebackers can only command so much money in free agency. Generally,
He's
I
26
guess
years old.
Quan Alexander did bring – that cost a lot last year for the San Francisco 49ers. But you saw how good he was when he was – look, we've seen what a great linebacker can do, and the question is can Shaq be that general out there? I think we're too thin. I think that's a great point, is that we need, if not somebody who can come in and be a major contributor, it wouldn't be a harm for us to go and try to find our version of the Saints getting A.J. Klein from us. A.J. Klein has contributed to the New Orleans Saints for the last 3 years. Has he been sensational? No. Has he been helpful? Yes. And you're right. I think that is a good place to focus on, because you could get a player in free agency and it's not going to cost you like a quarterback, like a defensive end, and and maybe in this game, I feel like in today's game, the linebacker position, while it is very important, and we've seen that from Luke Kuechly financially, it has been depreciated over the last decade.
Right. And the thing about the linebacker, too, it's such an important position on your defense, because, he's in the center of the field most of the time, middle linebacker. He can solidify a line that's not that good, and he can help a secondary that's not that good. It's a perfect position to have one of your best players on the team, which is why it's so devastating that we had to. By the way, I hung my Luke Kuechly jersey up, backside out, like everybody voted.
All right.
So I had to retire that one. It sucks. But, yeah, so those are the 3 moves that I would make immediately if I was GM.
Black helmets, man. I feel like that was cool, but a cop-out.
No. Well,
Tyler Lovato says that was a good take. Joe Schobert is a beast. I like that. I like that.
3 years, he has 408 tackles and 8.5 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 6 interceptions in 3 years. That's pretty good.
Who I will go. Do you want me to go next, guys?
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
All right. Number 1 decision as the Panthers GM is I would come out and I would release Colin Jones. First, I'm releasing Colin Jones, who is the captain of our special teams, and I'm replacing him with Cameron Artis-Payne from the Dallas Renegades. That's very good. I tried to watch a little XFL. I've picked the Dallas Renegades as my team because Cameron Artis-Payne and Frank Alexander are on their team, and then Cameron Artis-Payne barely played.
Again.
Of course. Of course.
That's his story,
history
man.
has repeated itself.
Okay, so after I cut Colin Jones, I'm also going to send Dontari Poe his walking papers and free up some cap space. And here is the question I need to know. I cannot make this decision as a GM to move on from Cam, but I've been talking about Leonard Williams in the chat before the game. Defensive end, 3-4 defensive end, who was originally with the Jets, traded to the Giants, who is in a contract year. The Giants also have the 4th overall pick. Can they afford to pay Leonard Williams? And if they can't, how about we trade for their 4th round pick, get Tua and Leonard Williams, replace Dontari Poe with Leonard Williams' contract, and then my last move is this, is I want to go and get free agent cornerback Bradley Roby from the Houston Texans and finally get an answer for us at the nickel corner.
You think Bradley Roby from the Houston Texans is the answer?
Bradley Roby is nasty. He is great.
I would rather have Chris Harris than Bradley Roby.
Chris Harris is 31.
If you're gonna have a guy play nickel corner,
he's 31. He's old. Bradley Roby came out. I wanted, but see here, full disclosure, I wanted Bradley Roby the year we picked frickin' Kelvin Benjamin. That was my pick. Bradley Roby. No, we got Kelvin Benjamin. Guess
I'm noticing a trend here, though. You wanted Leonard Williams one point in time to be drafted.
Excellent
then
point.
you wanted Bradley Roby at one point in time because you wanted to draft him. Okay.
Yeah, and then here is the other thing, though. I will point out this, is that same year, my guy that I thought this was when we first started the website, fellas, which we barely do anything to anymore. So if anybody wants to help take that over, hell, just let me know. The other thing is that the guy that I thought was the receiver to get in that draft was Allen Robinson, Penn State. No. We go with a guy that should have been drafted in the second. We overlook Allen Robinson. We had a chance to arguably get him in the second if we move for it. No. We got fat, crappy Kelvin Benjamin. So Bradley Roby, Leonard Williams to help us with that 3-4 defensive end position, which we need one. We need a big body. We don't got Mario Addison no more. We don't know how KK is going to do in a 3-4. And right now the other one is your guys is who was it? Gerald McCoy, older, he was not bad last year, but neither did he excel. Now, I'm okay. I'm not upset with him. And then I think the last, what did I say? Bradley Roby, Leonard Williams, and then I think it could be something. Let me see. I got one more move, right? One more move. And I think it's going to be, we're going to have to go down the list a little bit. What if we did something to the effect of, I wouldn't mind a safety. Can we get
Jimmy Ward from the
he sounds expensive.
San Francisco 49ers.
How about we did something like re-sign Trey Boston? Take that. Those are my moves right now. Setting us up for the draft. Unless you really think, the one thing that weirds me out about re-signing Trey Boston is he's not that great. He's okay. He's good. He's good, not great. I like his personality in the locker room, but I feel like when you can in the draft in like the second rounds get a playmaker free safety. Think of Justin Reed. Think of a lot of these guys. I think that's something that you can plug and play an athletic guy and then really have a lot of success in their early years.
Yeah, I mean, those are good moves. They're all it's just kind of funny. There's a lot of different ways that you can tackle this. I think Greg made a good point with having to get a linebacker. And listen, let's be honest about this. It hasn't dawned on us yet. And it's not going to dawn on us until later in the season. But we lost Luke Kuechly. And everything that he did for our defense, I'm telling you, man, even when he wasn't the one making the play, him being on the field impacted the play and how it went. So, I think whether it be the draft, whether it be early in the draft or somewhere in free agency, I think you have to have more than Shaq Thomas. And, I think
Shaq Thompson. What about are there any tight ends on the list? Because, all right, so let's move on. Who wants the mic next? Who is going to take over as the GM? I thought there was some good comments, too, earlier. Trill might be right. Michael Jones with another donation. Thank you for your generosity tonight, Michael Jones, for your support of the C3 Panthers podcast. Trill one might be right about moving Eric Reed to middle linebacker. Your thoughts?
So, again, middle linebacker, it's a lot more than just your normal chasing down the play. There's a lot involved, moving pieces around on the defensive line, calling audibles, changing the play. It might sound good in theory, but I would be more comfortable with Shaq Thompson at middle linebacker than I would Eric Reed.
Nick Monterio from Massachusetts, who's friends with Josh from Mass, and I'm thinking about putting him in timeout, dude.
Putting who in time?
Nick Montero.
Why wouldn't it do?
Tony's first act is to come out of the closet.
Come out of the closet. Quit lying, Tony.
I am out of the closet. I'm gay for Cam.
Oh.
So you're too late, brother. You're too late. You're late to the party. You get my sloppy seconds.
You're such a fangirl.
All right. Okay. So, Cody, what you got? Who wants next? CK or Cody? Which Cody wants?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you now. Great.
Okay. I had to exit
Cody,
before. I was like, I don't think they can hear me.
Oh, gosh.
Cody, I think you were already in the process of going through your 3, so I'll let you go.
Yeah. So, I actually wasn't, but I'll go ahead and start. So listen, the first thing I do is make Luke Kuechly the linebackers coach. I mean, that's literally number one. It's the first thing I do. I want Luke Kuechly and that amount of dedication and that amount of knowledge. I'm not willing to just lose all of that in one swoop. If Luke is willing to do it, I'm absolutely reaching out to him to be a coach in some kind of capacity. Number two, I re-signed some depth. I want to be able to, build up our roster in a way that we're not going into the draft having to have a bunch of different things. I would do some key re-signings. Amongst those would be Gerald McCoy. I think another year with Gerald McCoy would be in order. I think Trey Boston is another player that I would love to have back on the team. I think Trey Boston was better than he was bad last year.
I agree.
I remember him making more plays on the football than missing plays. So I have no problem with Trey. Well, yeah, but listen, I mean, that tackling isn't my number one quality in a free safety.
He's actually become a much better tackler than he
definitely
was with our first. Yeah, you're right about that. That was the whole problem with our whole team last year.
He can lay the wood on somebody, but
our whole team did that last year. It was just bouncing off of people.
Our whole that was a pervasive problem through our entire football team, from Bradbury to Trey Boston, Eric Reed, James Bradbury. A lot of our members of our defensive backfield, they just did not wrap up effectively. So we have to train that up. Have to do better with that. And then third, I mean, if you're wanting me to talk about personnel, I don't know, man. I'm kind of thinking go into the draft or into free agency rather and grab another offensive lineman. I mean, even if it's another piece somewhere. I would just do whatever I could to bolster up the trenches and make this offensive line and defensive line as efficient and as nasty as it needs to be if we're going to be a competitor.
Yeah. It's funny when you say that because, like, in my mind, when I think offensive line, like, the first thing I think is I want somebody who is proven already outside of college. Has come to the pros and proven.
Amen.
And then I think about examples of that we've gotten free agency in the last few years, and I'm like, well, maybe that's not necessarily the best thing.
Well, it turns out those guys were not proven, though. We just wish they were. We tried to convince ourselves that Matt Khalil
and Khalil and all them were.
And you know what? Yeah. I still defend the Matt Khalil signing, even though it fucked us financially.
Not the money.
The reason I defend the Matt Khalil signing is that we finally, in our lifetime, tried to make some decisive move to fix it. Yep. Was it a terrible move, and was he fucking awful? Yes. It was horrendous. And he was horrendous, and that's hard to defend the move that did not work out at all. And he sucked. He's like my least favorite offensive lineman. But I tell you one thing, is I was so damn sick and tired of the Panthers trying to make Greg Van Roten into a left tackle next year. And so it did not work, but I think that's where you're coming from, is a guy, too, that's had a little experience, like maybe a Brian Bulaga.
Brian Bulaga.
Is he free agent?
Offensive tackle for Green Bay, 31 years old. Yes, he is a free agent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Brad Dugan. Brad Dugan had a lot to say on Twitter today, and I think we're going to come back and address that. He thinks that right now that the writing, he's with Cody, the writing is on the wall, that this is no more Cam, that this is a rebuild, and he's even thinking that Christian McCaffrey he's not arguing for these things, but ultimately it does not look like the Carolina Panthers are trying to make it happen next year and are tanking for Trevor Lawrence potentially. He says this: number 1 move, make final decision on Cam. Number 2, sign a linebacker in free agency. Number 3, trade back in the first rounds to acquire more picks and assets with the glaring holes and needs that we have on this team. Great comment from Brad Dugan. CK, are you there? And what do you... Yes, you are there. I see your face, your beautiful face. What do you do as the GM?
So first and foremost, I recall my childhood years when we learned a simple lesson. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, and we make a commitment for Cam Newton.
Amen.
That's number 1. All right. And the reason I'm saying this early is that these next 2 months set up the draft. Period. No questions asked. That's what they do. So go ahead and get the biggest question mark off the board right out of the gate. All right. Got that squared away. Now we have 2 glaring holes. That's going to be tight end and middle linebacker. Obviously, we need to shore up some free agents in the meantime. We have some cap space. I agree with a lot of the moves you guys have made with Dontari Poe. I'm trying to be different than what you guys are saying, so I'm trying to go about it. I think all of you had one of my 3, at least one of them. So, my favorite one, by the way, has been putting Luke into the linebacker role. Linebacker coach role. But nonetheless, that my first move, once again, committing to Cam. Number 2 is finding a free agent. I don't want a rookie linebacker right now because what that's going to do is it's going to put him behind Shaq Thompson, and Shaq Thompson is going to end up being the leader on that defense. And so now we're back at this exact same spot. So we need to get a veteran in here. I actually like that idea of Scobert coming over here, Schobert, whatever it is.
Imagine that with Luke Kuechly as his coach.
Yeah, and so
crazy.
But let's say we get that shored up. I still think that we have the ability to develop Ian Thomas, but we still need a tight end. And my focus in the draft, outside of just the first round, depending upon where Moss goes, I think Moss would be a great addition. Not only, I mentioned it on a couple of podcasts prior to this, but not just for the star power, not for the ability to say we have Randy Moss's son on our team. I think that he has been around football his entire life at a high level, and his intelligence would be welcomed, especially by Cam Newton, who has leaned on Greg Olsen knowing assignments. And if you've grown up knowing football, you have to be pretty intelligent about those things. So I feel like that's probably going to be a really good replacement part for somebody like a Greg Olsen who did a lot of the running of the offense to help Cam Newton out with guys who maybe don't know what their assignments are in those huddles. So once again, just to recap, first one, Cam Newton. Second, get a linebacker in free agency. And then third, draft a tight end that actually knows what he's talking about in the draft.
Hey, just out of curiosity, doesn't Randy Moss live in the Charlotte area?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yes, he
I'm
does.
I'm pretty sure he does.
His son played high school football in Charlotte.
Yeah, because I remember there was one point in time where he put something in the paper like any Carolina receivers that want to come and learn or get some advice from you or whatever, But would it be crazy if you got his son as tight end and Randy Moss, since he lives here and his son plays for the team, was like, hey, I could be a wide receivers coach and have Randy Moss come be a wide receivers coach? or just be associated with the team at all.
That almost feels gimmicky though. Like, I mean, I think that's pretty cool, but you know, I've seen no evidence that he's, you know, he's going to be coaching at a high level. It seems like he's more focused on the actual broadcasting side of things. So
because he's good at it too.
Yeah.
Tyler Lovato says, "Don't you think we've already made a decision about Cam with letting Greg Olsen walk, and not addressing Cam Newton's future?"
I think it puts once again, and this is why I say that we're waiting until the draft to make a decision. I think it puts a lot of people on edge, not knowing what we're going to be doing with that 7th pick, right? You know, if let's say the Chargers don't pick, you know, a quarterback at number 7, or let's say some of the cards don't fall that same way, I think you have a lot more negotiating power if you're going to be moving backwards for more picks. Well, guess what? Hey, I need both your first-round picks, Dolphins. You know, if you want to move into the number 7 pick, since you obviously have 3 picks in the first round. You know, and I just feel like you allow for desperation because of it. So I think, yes, they may have made a decision on Cam Newton. I think March will give us more insight onto that. But I think I would like to believe that the Panthers already have a decision to keep Cam, and right now they're just kind of playing the long game, playing the Game of Thrones, as they say. But we'll see.
I saw a clip from Mike Greenberg's show on ESPN. It's like Get Up, Get Out, whatever, some show. I don't even know the name because I never watch ESPN. I just saw the clip on Twitter. You know, it got pushed to an update on my phone, and I fast forwarded to the clip talking about Cam Newton, and they had a former GM and a player, like a former player, you know, kind of battling out over Cam Newton. And they said that one of the things that one of the individuals was saying is that Cam Newton, when you have Matt Rule, who's gotten the amount of money he's gotten with the time, it looks like that David Tepper is willing to invest in Matt Rule, that he doesn't have to rebuild immediately. He has the luxury of maybe trying to take Cam Newton and show some legitimacy at the NFL level. I thought that was an interesting comment. But the other comment that I heard was one of the guys was saying, and when he said my sources and this and that, it sounded kind of like Ian Rappaport was his source. Like, so we got that source too. But that they not only were not really ready to make a decision on Cam, but one of the things he said is that the Panthers weren't in love with the quarterbacks in this draft.
Quarterbacks in this. So,
like, as in, hey, Tua's likely going to be off the board. And then you're talking about maybe Justin Herbert being available, but after that maybe really their eye is on quarterback next year, and maybe Cam Newton is a stopgap for that in that meantime. But who is it?
So it's Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And those are and I just want to point out, no one has done more to effectively tank and get the first pick in the draft than the Miami Dolphins.
And they don't have the first round.
Even they couldn't do that next year. So it doesn't matter who they like next year. I mean, I like both of those guys too, but there's no guarantee that even if you're trying to suck, that you're going to suck enough to actually be.
I agree.
Those two players. So, and listen, man, there's so much. I don't judge quarterbacks the way other people judge quarterbacks. And a lot of people are going to look at Justin Herbert and be like, oh, well, he never wowed anyone, or, oh, he was inaccurate. Well, Justin Herbert also had 3 different offensive coordinators in 4 years, never had a true number 1 wide receiver, was asked to throw short passes and get the ball out quick, and simultaneously to throw the football down the field. So he was asked to do a lot. He did all of those things relatively well. And you're going to tell me if you put a 6'6" quarterback with a cannon for an arm in Joe Brady's system that he's not going to have a level of success? I mean, come on, what are we doing, man? Like, I mean, these are the same type of people that are saying, oh, but Josh Allen wasn't worth it. And by the way, if you compared their film Justin Herbert is an immensely more talented quarterback than Josh Allen was coming out of Wyoming. A far more talented passer. He's mobile. He's big as hell. I think that this narrative that I've seen from so many people that Justin Herbert would be such a terrible pick, I guarantee you that there are legitimate people in the NFL that more teams than not have him ranked as a top 10 pick than teams that don't have him ranked that high. I just think Justin Herbert would be great for us if that's the way we ended up moving. But who knows?
Great discussion going on in the C3 Panthers chat room. Tyler Lovato, I believe in my heart and soul, David Tepper wants a QB in next year's draft, and they've already talked about it. Cam Newton can't be a stopgap if we are tanking. Trevor Lawrence will go number 1. Rex Smith says Rappaport has reported we were trading Cam in September. Rappaport admitted that he was guessing, and his sources are himself. No credibility. And Brad Dugan says, I heard that as well, that they don't like the QBs in this draft. And then last, Joey Esquivel comes in and says, I think it's just that the Miami Dolphins suck at everything, including sucking itself. Turns out they don't suck as good as the damn Bengals.
No, yeah, the Bengals slid in there, didn't they? They were equally as bad, if not the worst. Obviously, they were the worst team, being that they only had one win, or were they completely defeated this year?
No, they got one. We have not had the winless team yet that I've seen in ever. Have we seen an 0-16 team in the recent
I'm pretty sure.
Years?
Didn't the Detroit Lions do it?
No, I think somebody always gets a win. It's kind of like the undefeated season always is shook. The defeated season also gets shook as well. Hey, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the cat calls and see what the fans are saying. The number's 252-228-5098. You can be part of the longest running Panthers podcast. Go ahead and subscribe to the show. If you're listening on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts later on, we appreciate your support. Send us an email at carolinacatchronicles@gmail.com if you want to chat, or go ahead and just be cool and subscribe, leave a review, tell a friend about the show. That's my favorite thing about how we can grow this podcast, is tell one fan about this podcast and how each and every week we're in the car, riding to the games, chopping it up together. And let's see what these fans got to say on the Cat Calls line. Let me see if I got
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
Yes, my name's Anthony Rochelle. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan since 1995, and I think that it was a good situation of getting a good coach that from college. But we'll see what happens this season. But I've been waiting for years for us to win a Super Bowl, for our team to go all the way. This is Anthony Rochelle, coming straight out of California, but I'm still representing for Carolina Panthers.
All right, thank
Go
you.
Panthers.
Word up. Keep pounding. Thank you, Anthony. Great name. Good, strong name right there. Anthony Rochelle from California, thank you for your support and your call. Excited about bringing in the youthful Matt Rule, right? And on top of that, really, we're a college coaching squad right now. While they have padded it with some guys that have some experience in different areas, we're talking about a head coach and an offensive coordinator who have zero NFL well, Joe Brady does have a little NFL experience. I don't know if just sitting in the room really counts, but maybe it helps. Guys, weeks out, how do we remain excited about these coaching decisions based on the disparity and the uncertainty of our situation going forward? Has anybody gotten more excited, Greg? We know it's not you. And we can't hear you. In fact, you muted yourself because we don't even want to hear it. All right. Cody, any thoughts on weeks out of the coaching? Are you optimistic about the future of this team when it comes to the staff that's being put together?
I am, and I think one of the things that's been lost in all this is that we're building for longevity. So, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty going forward, but I've said it on the show before. I could not be happier with the coaches that we have hired. I think that Matt Rule is the perfect motivator that we need on this football team right now. And Joe Brady is the definition of the offensive coordinator that I've been wanting here in Carolina for such a long time. So I'm happy about everything coaching related.
Greg, don't you know that your mother told you if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all? And let's see if he can say anything at all right now.
I can be nice about it. Like I said, I'm yet to be excited about the situation, but I'm not going to be pessimistic about it, okay? All I know is since Teppers came here and now Matt Rule's here, I've lost Luke Kuechly, I've lost Greg Olsen, and I'm might be losing Cam Newton. So I'm waiting for some good news to get excited. I'm not going to talk trash. I'm not going to be salty. I'm just waiting for good news before I get excited. So.
CK, poor Susan's out there paying for Matt Rule's contract.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah,
it seems that way. And I'll be honest. If we're 0-8, and I'd love to be able to take some of those tickets off of our hands, but I'll tell you what, I'm not paying an increased price for them. I hate to say it, but
yeah, how do we handle that 4-game package next year, CK?
Yeah,
right. Can we cut it down to 1?
Yeah, we might end up having to do that.
That's messed up. All right.
Can I ask you guys a legitimate question though?
Sure.
About this David, just since the David Tepper era, since he took over, what is a positive thing that's happened to this franchise? We've had 2 losing seasons, horribly losing seasons. Like not just 7 and 9, like horribly losing seasons. Kind of haven't had great. Well, I guess we've had a decent draft. We've lost, key players: Greg Olsen, Thomas Davis, maybe Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly, Julius Peppers retired, so I can't really say anything about that. But I mean, give me some positive things about this Tepper era that's happened so far. I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but that's the reason why I'm not as excited until I see something that excites me. Like
Cody, tell him to open his eyes and look at the field.
Well, okay.
The first thing you ever did.
I like that. I like that.
First thing you ever did.
Right now, that's the best thing we got.
I'll give you that. There's one. Prices have gone up though. So
yeah, correct. And I was gonna say, he's made a lot of moves that seemingly were listening to fans, but he's past the honeymoon phase. I think you've seen that. Not only in the willingness for him to raise prices, but also for him to remove people's seats for the Major League Soccer, which may or may not be a rousing failure, right? So you never know. I'd like to think that it's going to be successful, but I hate that people that have had seats for such a long time are no longer going to have those seats. And, I think it's even more, because I think Catman Jr. lost his seats. Which his dad had forever. Yeah. And I mean, they're trying to work with people, but the problem is, you're talking about the history for these people. A lot of these people have had these seats for the entire history of the 25 years with the Carolina Panthers. So I could see I'm on that side. The part of this that I'll say the positive. As Greg was asking, is when Tepper sees something that he wants, he gets it, right? Joe Brady, he got it. How that wasn't probably an easy decision, right? He stole Matt Rule out from underneath the Giants. I guarantee you the Giants were about to pay him, right? They were about to offer him a job. He was about to accept it and move on. David Tepper wanted him, and he got him, right? So I think we have a decisive owner, and I think that's something that we haven't had in a while. Somebody who's willing to put his money where his mouth is. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not something we all agree with, and that's where the frustration comes from today with the non-committal answer and whatnot. I think once again, if you read too much into it, I think you got enough of your answer about what we were going to be doing with Cam. But we'll see.
One other thing is when it rains, we don't have to interrupt tango practice. Tango lessons.
Yes, the bubble, the practice bubble. Yeah.
All right.
The headquarters. I was going to say the headquarters, but that hasn't happened yet. So we'll leave that off the board.
And if you're a Charlottean, your taxes went up. Another good thing. Oh, wait, never mind. All right, let's go on to the next call. You guys, I'm going to go refresh my beverage to cover my back, all right?
Yep. Gotcha.
What's up, Seed 3 and Panther Nation? This is Theo from Asheville. So I've kind of got a question. You know, they're saying there's reports coming out that the Panthers are they're going to wait until March to see if Cam Newton's healthy to assess, you know, whether we keep him or go a different route. But I just don't really see us waiting until March to assess Cam Newton and then maybe saying, like, oh, you know, he's not healthy, and then getting rid of him. I think at that point it's going to be hard to get rid of Cam Newton. And, like you know, what really are you going to get for a player of Cam Newton's caliber if you say, oh, well, he's not healthy, he's not going to be very healthy this year. I just don't think you're going to get much in return for him. So, you know, in my opinion, it's starting to look like if we don't really hear, you know, a decision to get rid of Cam before March, I just think, I don't want to say we're going to be stuck with Cam, but, you know, it just kind of seems like that's going to have to be the decision that's going to be made. And, you know, I'm excited to see if we get Cam back, what he's able to do after he said he's got something to prove. But, you know, I also want to ask real quick, with so many holes in our team, do you guys really see it, you know, necessary to go out and draft a quarterback this year? You know, I think Andrew Thomas has been talked about on the podcast, and, you know, with our defensive line, our secondary, basically everything looking like shit, what position do you guys really prioritize in this draft if it's not a quarterback and we end up keeping Cam Newton? Keep up the good work, and, yeah, keep pounding, boys.
Keep pounding.
Keep pounding. So I'll start by saying I would love nothing more than to take any other position. Maybe not any other position, but there are so many other players I would prefer to draft than a quarterback this year. Knowing that the Panthers have never had a true franchise left tackle, I got to admit right now Andrew Thomas is kind of the apple of my eye at 7. But Isaiah Simmons is up there really close too. I mean, listen, man, and in my mind, this is what it boils down to. As much as I don't want to have to draft a quarterback, you cannot tell Carolina Panther fans going into next season to be confident that this is going to be a competing football team with Kyle Allen or Will Grier under center. I mean, you're sending a message that you don't like your own chances, and then, yeah, that's when these conversations about tanking arise. So, I mean, here's the deal. If Cam Newton is not going to be the quarterback for the Panthers next year, we either have to bring in another one in free agency or we have to draft one. I mean, it's that simple. Kyle Allen and Will Grier are never going to be the answer, in my opinion. I think most people feel this way now. So, yeah, again, it's back to the Cam Newton situation that no one has a good answer to.
No. All right. Any more comments?
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, this is a tricky question, and because for me, it all depends on what you do in the free agency. So for me, those are the two positions that you know, Andrews, is that what you said, the offensive tackle?
Andrew Thomas.
Andrew Thomas, yeah. And their left tackle, and then the linebacker, Simmons, right? Those are the two positions that I say you fill in free agency. If you don't fill those in free agency, for me, those are the two. One of those two guys is who you go after. But if you fill that in free agency, then for me, it's just best player available at number 7. You know, because you I mean, I just think those are two positions that if we lock those up, it'll affect us the most if we could lock those two positions up.
I want
the most immediate and biggest effect.
I want a D tackle or a left tackle at 7 if we don't get a quarterback. And I don't really want a quarterback. I'm just sort of excited by the Tua name. Other than that, I don't give a crap. But for me, I do that Georgia guy, man. You add him, and then a lot of your problems get eliminated, like longevity issues for the future of that offensive line are helped a ton. Instead of hoping some of these guys work out.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep pushing through with the calls.
What's up, guys? Kyle from VA. Another Tuesday night, which means another edition of the Best Panther podcast out there. Not really much to talk about at this part. Still waiting on the combine and the draft, obviously. I mean, there's a lot of picks that the Panthers could pick, but to me, you can narrow it down to maybe 3, maybe 4. If they're there, then you go for them. And then for me, that's Andrew Thomas.
Nope.
You can go with Isaiah Simmons. I don't know, man. I just don't want Derek Brown, dude. There's something about him. Not saying that he isn't talented, and comparing these two is just probably way off. But I don't know, man. Derek Brown just seems like he's gonna be as bad as Vernon Butler, but similar. You know what I'm saying? And those are the 3 main. I wouldn't mind Thomas or Simmons at all. It just depends on which one you want to put your faith in for the first number 7 pick. Still talking about the Cam Newton situation when we all thought we were getting good news. I saw a little tweet Sean Merriman put out on Twitter the other day. I don't know how much merit that holds, but I just don't see how the Panthers could get rid of Cam this year after Luke retiring, after letting go of Greg. I mean, you got to sell tickets, and I just don't think you can get rid of Cam Newton. There's too many people of this fan base that love Cam Newton, and with the healthy Cam Newton, let's face it, man, we always have a chance to compete with the healthy Cam Newton. I don't care what you say. Not really much else that there's really to talk about. Can't wait for the show, and as always, keep pounding.
Man, thank you so much for the support on that, and a lot of agreement there, a lot of echoing Cody's sentiment when it comes to those draft picks. Can you comment a little bit on that defensive tackle, the Brown kid, and remind us of one of the calls last week, or I don't know who it was last week that was talking about believing there was a higher floor for him than the Kinlaw kid, but a higher ceiling for Kinlaw. Is that his name?
Yeah, meaning Derek Brown is probably the defensive tackle that you're going to draft right now, and you kind of know what he is. Dude, he's just a big, strong freak. I mean, you're going to play him at 1 technique in a 4-3. You can even put him at a 0 as a pure nose tackle in a 3-4. But he has the type of ability and speed and athleticism off the football that teams are going to want to put him at 3 technique. The comparison that I've been using for him is Fletcher Cox. If you look at what Fletcher Cox does for Philadelphia, I think a lot of people are going to want to put him in a similar scenario. But the dude is just powerful. He doesn't lose on the line of scrimmage. Now, one of the things I'll say about both Brown and Javon Kinlaw is that they both need some pass rushing moves, meaning they can beat you and they might have another move that they can hit you with if their initial strength and their bull rush fails. But a lot of times if they get blocked, they stay blocked. So you're talking about players that you're going to have to teach. You're going to have to build up. But, I mean, listen, Derek Brown, I mean, if you look at what was ailing us last year, and just the ability to run the football all over us. Let me tell you what, if you had Derek Brown in the middle and K'Wan Short and Gerald McCoy on either side, dude, that is a formidable
Or
defensive
K'Wan
interior.
Short, Brown, and Leonard Williams.
You and your crush on
I'm
Leonard
not gonna let
Williams.
that one go.
Hey, you guys asked me to come up with something, and I had to go for
Hey,
something.
dude, I'm not mad.
Sure.
My crush was Samuel Watkins a few years ago.
Yeah, you're gonna be trying to get him when the Chiefs cut him, probably.
Dude, he has a Super Bowl victory. I'm just saying. Anyway.
I saw some other things, and we're
going.
gonna keep pushing through with these calls. I saw, what was it? Some other names thinking about when it comes to free agency. When we did not talk about was the tight end position. Actually, CK did talk about it in addressing it with the draft. Now, maybe our coaching staff will be much more conducive to putting in a guy at tight end who isn't 80 or 32 or whatever you have to be to play under Ron Rivera. So you're going to see a little Ian Thomas. Hopefully we will not see any more of the other dude that much. But, there's other names out there, Tyler Eifert, Hunter Henry. And I think the Chargers may be franchise tagging Hunter Henry. I think that's where they're going now that Phillip Rivers isn't there. But, again, man, when I look at some of those names at tight end, Eric Ebron was one you brought up, right?
Austin Hooper, too.
Yeah. I think they're going to try to keep Hooper. Maybe they won't be able to. Ebron, I was high on him last year. Back down. I'm up and down every other year. So contact me
He's
in
like
a year.
28, right?
Yeah, maybe I'll be interested in him, but he's not. He's got the dropsies. And then Eifert, when you look at it, that dude ain't played at all. He's been hurt.
He is hurt. Like he's made glass, dude.
Yeah.
If there's anybody that should
retire,
retire, it's him.
Yeah. He had a great season like 3 seasons ago. He had like 13 or 14 touchdowns. He's had like back surgery every year since then.
Yeah.
I think.
So,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. He only played like 4 games or 6 games last year. So some of the, though, I get worried about a couple of these guys that you're looking at. Another one, when you look at these guys who are good but have, who don't. Oh, I know. It was the Sheriff kid. Scherf, the Brandon Scherf, the guard from Washington, who's been great when he plays, but he's been hurt every year. He misses some games.
Like Reed.
Yeah.
Jordan
Reed. Yeah, who everybody says is the best tight end in the world who never played. All right, let's go to the next call. Next up, Tyler Lovato. Before he gets back to work, let's see what you got.
Hey, what's up, C3 Podcast? This is Lovato from OKC.
What's up, Tyler?
I just wanted to talk about possibly keeping Cam and why I think it's too risky and why I think we should trade him and tank for Trevor or Justin Fields. If we keep Cam next year and say he's good all year and we decide, okay, we're going to re-sign him, then we re-sign him, he ends up getting hurt or he's not the same player. He's getting old, and he's getting up there in age too. He's like, 30 now? He'll be 32 on a rebuilding team like in 2 years. I mean, that you can do something with that, but it's too scary with all the injuries he has. I think the best thing for our team, I hate to say it because I love Cam too just as much as you guys, but I really think the best thing for this rebuilding organization is to trade Cam, get as much as you can for him. Don't take anything less than a second-round pick, though. Once you trade Cam, you use this year to tank, you build that line this year in the draft, you get a linebacker in free agency, and you wait for next year's draft. Hopefully you suck. You play Will Greer all year. You know for a fact we're going to be a top 10 pick if we have Will Greer out there. Let's be real.
But that doesn't.
If we don't get the number 1 pick, we're not getting Trevor Lawrence. I don't care who the fuck is that number 1. I don't care if it's the Packers, the number 1. They're going to take Trevor Lawrence. They're going to say, fuck Aaron Rodgers. This guy is the best quarterback coming out since Andrew Luck or maybe even Peyton Manning. I don't care if they have a quarterback or not. The number 1 pick will not be traded, and it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. So we might not have a shot at Trevor, but we will have a shot at Justin Fields. We can trade some assets, try to get either Justin Fields, or maybe we get lucky. We're the worst team in the NFL. We get Trevor Lawrence. That's when the dynasty starts. I'm so excited to lose every game next year. Let's fucking tank for Trevor or Justin Fields. Let's go, baby.
Cody, you take that because I think we're overselling Trevor Lawrence.
No, we're
Cody's
not
not going to agree with you
overselling.
on that.
No,
know,
we're not
I know.
overselling.
Tell me.
Well, because I also, and I'm going to be a snob about this, I've also seen infinitely more actual Trevor Lawrence snaps than Tony. But I don't blame him for,
Yeah,
thinking
you've seen infinitely more. I would not say infinite, but one or two.
I've seen way more
snapshots.
Trevor Lawrence than you have. That's for damn sure.
That's true.
But no, listen, the point that I said earlier kind of remains true. I mean, if you look at what the Dolphins did, they did everything in their power to get the number 1 pick. They were trading people, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Laramie Tunsil. They shipped them all out, did everything they could, and they still don't have the number 1 pick.
That's
now,
what
you might
concerns
say,
me.
Well, you might say they have the collateral to move. The Bengals aren't going to move off of Joe Burrow unless the Dan Patrick rumors end up being true. But the Bengals aren't going to come off of Joe Burrow. So maybe you gather all the picks that Miami has to move up. Tanking is people question if it's even real, because these players aren't ever going to tank. Even if the organization is saying, okay, well, we have a quarterback in mind that we want next year. None of the players that you signed, all the free agents, all the rookies that are playing for more money in their second deal, they're not just going to go out there and lay down because the organization decides, hey, there's a quarterback that we want next year. And listen, man,
the Dolphins tanked and they still won 5 games.
Right.
Yeah, they still won 5.
How are they so fucking far ahead of us? How many did we win? 6?
5. We won 5 games.
They're 5-11 last year, and
but I think they're only like 3 spots ahead of us, right?
Yeah, they're at 5. We're at 7. They're at 5.
Yeah, they're not that far ahead of us.
That's a long ways away.
But listen, let me just say this to Tyler Lovato. That was who the caller was, right, Tyler?
Yes.
Yeah. And so listen, I feel like even a few months ago, to even recommend or suggest that Cam Newton not be on this football team was almost like an insult. Like, what? How dare you believe that? You don't believe in Cam Newton? But I feel like now, you can't be mad at Tyler for having an opinion like that.
Man, fuck that shit. Oh,
I want Cam Newton to come back. This is all I've ever dreamed of having for Cam Newton is an offensive coordinator with the ability and the talent to game plan an offense around him that he'll be able to thrive in and do all the great Cam Newton things that we love to see Cam Newton do. But the injury history is real. If we're going to say that Tua Tagovailoa's injury history is a concern, but then it's also a concern for a going to be 31-year-old quarterback that's already played 10 years in the NFL. So, I understand that sentiment now of people that want Cam Newton to be the quarterback, but don't think he will.
Couldn't you have quit? But couldn't you have say Andrew Luck had not retired?
Wait, hold on, Tony. Greg raised his hand so politely, like a fourth grader.
I do
want to
ask
your hand around.
Okay, so here's the only problem. I get what he's saying. There's a few problems I have with that mindset. I don't like tanking. I don't like the idea of it. I don't like tanking. But you're predicating that entire argument off a lot of what ifs. Like, he started it out with, well, what if we sign Cam Newton and he plays well, or we let him play next year and then he plays well, and then he gets injured or doesn't play well after that? Chance you're going to take with anybody. You're taking that chance with any player you put out there that they're not going to produce the next year, or they're going to get injured. So you can't base your future on that happening, because there's no guarantee it's going to happen. Now, even if you did decide to do this and trade Cam Newton, like we were saying, no guarantee you're going to get the first pick. You can win one game and still not get the first pick in theory. So I mean, there's no guarantee you're going to get the first pick. I just don't like the idea of, and I get where he's coming from, and I really do. He's ready for something, but it seems to me that you've already given up on Cam Newton. You're already saying when he comes back, he's going to fail, and I'm planning for the future after he fails. Your best bet is to leave him where he's at. You're not going to get that play from, like I said, from anywhere else. $19 million. If he doesn't do well, then the next year you move on. You're in the same position anyway. The next year you got to move on.
I know. If he gets hurt, you automatically tank. I do think you're right about that. But there is a scenario where tanking does work. And it happened in 2010 with the Carolina Panthers, and that's how we got Cam Newton. And when you Google, this is awesome, dude. When you Google Panthers tank, this is what I Googled, was Panthers tank in 2010. And then I found the first article I could that had to actually do with the Carolina Panthers. Most of them are like about World War II tanks and shit like this. Somehow, though, in 2010, we traded a 5th-round pick to the Chiefs for a guy by the name of Tank Tyler. This guy's picture, oh my God, his neck is the size of a howitzer. Oh my goodness.
He's a superhero. You know that, right? With that kind of name and that kind of look.
Tank Tyler? You're right. You were right. He is a superhero. Turns out he's not a super defensive tackle because nobody knows who the fuck Tank Tyler is. Tanking, it's a tough decision to make. It usually comes from the ownership and general management because, like what Cody has said.
Correct, but here's the part of this that I think that is tough, and I want to read this because Tyler wants a chance to I guess prove his point. He says if we rebuild with Cam, our Super Bowl window will be so short, which I could see a case for that, but I also see the opposite of that with Drew Brees. His longevity in the league. If you build around, I'm not sitting here saying Cam Newton is that same type of quarterback, but I'm just saying that the ability for Cam to stay healthy isn't necessarily, a long shot. So I still see that as being a priority. But let's even think about the 2010. We tanked in 2010 with a coach that we already had. I promise you, you did not lure Matt Rule to this organization by telling him you're going to tank next year.
That's a good point.
He does have to, and this is what I heard a guy say on TV today. He needs to kind of, no matter how much money he makes, how long his contract is, there is still the cloud of being a college coach and not being able to work in the NFL. Yeah. He needs to prove NFL legitimacy early. At some point.
You can't. Yeah, and the same thing. Let's even take him out of the equation. Do you think Joe Brady leaves LSU? Which he just had like an incredible season, a championship. Do you leave a losing team? I mean, a winning team to go to a team just to tank? I mean, like there are plenty of other offensive coordinator positions that are going to be open to him after the coaching carousel took place. So why land with the Panthers if you're told?
I think this is a great point. Great point, CK.
Yeah. Why? I mean, you just don't lure people like that. Of the caliber of Matt Rule, if you listen to him talk, he's a man of great integrity and character. Does tanking really come across as something that he would want to do? Right? So that's why, in my heart of hearts, if you will, I believe Cam Newton stays because it gives not only the organization the best chance to succeed, but also Matt Rule and Joe Brady to prove that this league is something that they can take advantage of, and they are able to actually perform at a high level. So,
Rex Smith says this: all of Brady's comments point to him wanting to work with Cam. I realize he doesn't have a say, but I agree with this point. Brady has indicated he wants Cam. I think this is that if you would be foolish to not want Cam Newton. If you believe that he can give you 16 games and not be a guy that can't throw the ball. If you look at Cam Newton and you see Cam Newton who couldn't get the ball down 20 yards down the field at the end of 2018, then I mean, that's not the Cam Newton we really believe exists. That's taking us, but you want Cam Newton. Thomas Davis, I heard today talking about this, is that, look, it don't matter if you get a great quarterback in the draft. Cam Newton's a generational type talent. And it don't matter if you get the number 1 ranked quarterback in the league or in the draft, is that Cam Newton is a kind of a transcendent type of, he is a transcendent player. So I don't want us to forget that. But I do agree with you 100% on this, CK, when it comes to these guys not being in their DNA. Right? Winning coaches, winning players, it's not in their DNA to take it off. But here is the problem with this, and this is where Tyler Lovato's points reign solid in a lot of ways, is that while we look at how quickly an NFL team can turn things around, right? I mean, you can go in the NFL from the bottom to the top. In fact, just look at it. Whoever was at the top last year will likely not be at the top next year, right? The NFL is built to be what I've heard some people say, an 8-8 league. You want every team to kind of be on par. Some people fall short of the 8-8. Some people go to 12-4. So there's some, but it's meant to be everybody, with the salary cap, with everything, with the way the rosters are structured, supposed to be parity. But the problem when we look at the Carolina Panthers roster is that other than Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey, we really don't have a lot to build around.
No.
Well,
that's the sad thing. That's the sad thing. Is there'll be one thing if we're a team that's got a defensive front like the 49ers, then you add the 4th defensive guy to the front, you add the Bosa in, and all of a sudden you got a healthy quarterback and a new. But I don't know if the Carolina Panthers turnaround, it just feels like it's getting further away than closer.
Well, can I just say, I know that I've personally seen Cam Newton go 15-1 with a running back that wasn't as good as Christian McCaffrey, offensive line that is at least at about the same level as what he has right now.
Half the talent in wide receiver.
With wide receivers that aren't as good as DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. Like, I've seen him do it with less talent. So give me a healthy Cam Newton, and I don't think, I think with what we got right now, you can't say we're tanking next year with that. Cam Newton's taken way lesser of a team, 15-1 to a Super Bowl.
You know what? You really just changed my mind. Boom. Changed my mind. Cam Newton, give me Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, and fuck y'all. Sounds kind of sad.
Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel, and a fucking offensive line that can stop a cold breeze would be fine with me. And
I mean, if you think about the offense, we have an offense. Like, this whole rebuild part of it is the tough part. Like, we have a receiving core that showed out last year. Like, even as bad as we were
that
with
is exaggerate. That's hyperbole.
Really, DJ Moore was number 3 in the league in receiving.
Yeah, 3rd or 4th,
But you're also a team that's losing all the time, and all they do is throw to one guy. And he got so many looks. He was homeboy's only look.
That? Here's the part of it that I yes, he may have been the only look. But don't you think defenses saw that? And then guess what? He was still getting that look.
And we cannot underestimate Christian McCaffrey, who had a historic season. I think that's one thing we completely just are like, oh, well, it was because it gets lost because the Panthers sucked.
When you watch the highlights from DJ Moore's best plays, I mean, you're seeing somebody
he's awesome, dude. I like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he puts his heart and soul into making sure that he plays well for this team.
He's like a Steve Smith that doesn't punch his teammates in the face.
Yeah, that would be an accurate statement.
And then fumbles the ball a little more.
True.
But
also doesn't break his leg in the preseason over nothing.
very true.
Remember when? Do you remember that? That made me so fucking pissed.
Yeah, I remember that.
Steve Smith breaks his leg. He had two things. He broke his arm playing flag football. Like, how the fuck do you break your arm playing flag football, Steve Smith? Like, with rec people. Probably got in a fight in the process. And then, second of all, that one preseason game, he jumps over a dude trying to get 1 extra yard out of bounds and breaks his leg. Oh. So, I love Steve Smith. Smitty. Come and punch somebody in the face. If we trade Cam Newton away, come and punch Tepper in the face. Next call.
Hey, this is Tanner up in Elkin. Forgive me if y'all already talked about it, but I wanted to ask about special teams, what you think about the signing of Joey Fly, and what's going on with Gano. Thanks. Bye.
All right. I'm going to open this up with I hate fucking Graham Gano, so I'm okay with not bringing him back. Joey Sly was no worse than Graham Gano. He may be a little bit worse at times. I'm hoping Joey Sly comes out of it and gets a year under his belt and gets comfortable next year. That's my hopes. Any thought on Joey Sly? Because he kind of became a punching bag, guys, at the end of the season, or a punching bag for the 2019 season.
I just love the competition. I don't want either of those guys to sleep easy.
Amen.
Because neither of them were clutch. They were hit or miss. Graham Gano the year before, we all remember the Giants game hitting that big kick that he hit. Yeah. Okay. We have another guy that has a big leg that can kick from a million yards away. But can you consistently hit from the 30? Like, that's what we need to know that you can.
Can you make a fucking extra point, assholes?
Yeah, an extra point. Like, yeah, you can't. You shouldn't ever have to take an extra point for granted. Like, you should just know that you have the kicker that's gonna do it. But
can I say I wanted to in my 3 picks things I wanted to do. My first thing was trade Graham Gano, but I decided not to go that route.
Yeah, because nobody will take him.
Yeah. I can say you're right. Don't take extra points for you should be able to take them for granted when they used to be from the 2-yard line. Now that it's like a 23-yard field goal, I don't care who you are. If you kick enough of those, you're eventually going to miss one. Like, that's why they moved it back, was because an extra point was so automatic, it made the game more boring.
Sarah Taylor, how many jobs? Please tell Greg how many jobs you got. An extra point from the 23-yard line. Fuck off. Make that shit, you asshole. You have 1 job.
I agree with you, but you know what, Tony? I'm on your side, man. The whole fucking no. I'm cool with Fly. So I've spoken.
Okay. We will put this on the back burner, and we will hit it up in a minute after we get through these calls. There's still more to go, but rules differences, XFL. One of those is they've eliminated that extra point.
Yep.
And they've given you these 3 options, which I will say is super cool when they show you the options. They got the line on the 2, the 5, and the 10, and you're like, oh, can you back up and be like, you know what? We changed our mind. Audible. We're going backwards and getting the 10. That's what I would be doing. It is different. The XFL is different, and
you know what was the most exciting about it, in my opinion?
What's that?
Was how amazing the review process was.
You liked it?
Yeah,
Really?
like, I mean, you hear them actually talking about it. You hear
they did that in the AAF, and it was great.
Yeah. So, I mean, you hear the actual the justification as to, or even the process to how they come to the conclusion of this was a fumble and this is what we're doing, and so on and so forth. So I think, yeah, absolutely. I loved a lot of the rules that they had, but yeah, no, absolutely. I think that I almost would just rather get rid of the extra point at this point in my life, because I think you put your most skilled players on the team. Like, it's what I talked about with the the onside kick. You know, instead of doing an onside kick, make it that 4th and 15, and then
I like that.
Put your best players on the team and let them be the deciding factor on how the game's going to go.
Yep, the XFL debuted this past week. We'll talk about those rules in a moment. Let's keep going. The number's 252-228-5098. It's the C3 Panthers podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Call again. As I hung up the phone for my first call,
You
my
remember
buddy
Graham
sent me a
Gano
link,
sucked.
to an ESPN article written by the biggest dumbass in the world, David Newton, where Cam, Super Bowl weekend
Tough
was
question,
saying he'd
Newton,
absolutely
though.
be back with the Panthers, and it quoted David Tepper saying, "Is he healthy? Tell me that, and then we can talk." And I'm be honest, I'm keeping up with the Panthers, but I really haven't seen anybody talking about the Tepper response. Just wondering if y'all heard about it, what you think about it, if there's more narrative to that story.
Oh gosh.
I'm kind of juggling between the little bit of news in between off season and the combine and draft. There's not much really going on right now, and I'm getting ready for baseball season. Go Cardinals. But yeah, just wondering if y'all heard anything about that, and if you could just explain a little bit more if you have heard about it, because to me that doesn't sound very good. But I don't think David Tepper is stupid enough to trade away. He's been hurt for 2 years, but if you look at what Cam Newton is and what he's always been, Cam Newton is the life of this team and has been since the moment we drafted him. And to not give him, you got him on contract for a year. To not give him a shot at a clean bill of health and to earn his job back would just be disrespectful, man. You would have a
riot, motherfuckers!
Of fans just.
Oh, sorry.
It wouldn't be pretty. You could say that. I think Cam Newton with a clean bill of health, man. He earns his job and a new contract for
Yeah,
multiple
you're right.
years.
Don't worry, we ain't monetized either.
Which he rightfully deserves.
We already are demonetized.
Anyway, guys, keep pounding.
All right, we addressed this a little bit earlier in the show, but let's just really quickly go around the horn. After you heard tough talking David Newton, and by the way, this was the best David Newton we've seen. This is the best David Newton we have seen in like ever.
Can I still say that I was annoyed by it?
Were you?
Yeah, I was still annoyed by it. I think it might have been that, so this existed in you, and you still you're still the dumbass that you are. So what you're telling me is you've done what you've done by choice for your entire career. So
Right.
you made that choice. You were capable of things like this, and you made the choice to not do it. Anyway.
He asked the tough question. Overall, though, after the Tepper comments, are you more or less? Where are you at? A little bit more towards Cam coming back, or a little less? Because the pendulum swings every week.
I think Cody has kind of stabilized my standpoint on that. I don't think my position's changed. I don't think. I think his answer is solely just to just give the media something instead. And obviously, they're going to ask the question. If he just says no comment, I mean, I feel like you have the exact same reaction, if not worse. People are going to read between the lines if you say no comment at that point or something crazy like that. So I'm at the same point that I was before the video came out.
Cody, what is the world? Everybody's saying he's still hurt. He's still when he's healthy. When he's healthy, I see his ass walking around everywhere, Peloton, and what the hell's wrong with him?
Yeah, and he's also doing 7-on-7 football camps with high school quarterbacks, and he was out there moving around, throwing the football. People were sharing clips on it, sharing clips of it on Twitter. I mean, listen, and this isn't the popular answer. But, I mean, this is what it is. Everybody, of course, we're all going to speculate, but we just got to chill, man. We just have to chill. Because I think everything is still on the table. I think there's still a good chance that Cam Newton is on this team next year. I also think that...
Oh, gosh. Every other week, Cody's somewhere else, too.
Well, listen, man. I'm saying if you look at all the things that we've said, he's still under contract for another year. We know that Cam Newton has a lot to prove. I think if anything, I've learned that Cam Newton might actually be willing to play under the same amount
Final
of money
year.
under the
Yeah,
final year.
that does not seem
and
like
go out
he-
there and throw the football.
Yeah, and so you take that one off the table, and guess what? Now it's still 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Let me ask you this, just before and this is something I wanted to bring up before. Do you think Cam is thinking about it from the perspective of being inspired and wanting to prove something this year? Or do you think that he believes the CBA gives him a whenever that's going to come out, what that's going to be in 2021, that's going to give him a place of more power when it comes to negotiating this contract? So do you think that by trying to push on a trade and push a better contract now, he's actually shooting himself because he doesn't know what that CBA is going to look like? So the value of what he does might be more substantial once that happens.
My initial thought is that players that got big D's like that, they're ready to bet on themselves. And so is that while we're sitting here going, he can make another $8 million over 2 years if he sits out or he forces this or that, and it gets a 3-year extension and gets cut after year 2. Cam Newton referenced Patrick Mahomes when he was at the Super Bowl, and those same comments that we heard where he said he was absolutely coming back. Mm-hmm. Cam Newton is seeing a new generation of Cam Newton supplant him. Mm-hmm. And Cam Newton, I think, is ready to show not only should I be paid, but I'm going to show you why I should be paid. I'm ready for I think Cam Newton's ready to bet on himself. Maybe he's not. And I think him deciding to sit out the 2019 season may be indicative of that. Is like he's saying this as I'm pushing my chips on 2020. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it's a good possibility. And, I missed the beginning of this conversation, but I walked in the tail end of it, and you were talking about the CBA and it affecting quarterbacks and this and that. And that was one point that I wanted to bring up last week that I never got to. I just forgot in the moment. That is another reason why Cam Newton is the best selection for right now, because you have 1 year to figure out if he's a guy you want to be your guy. Because I'm sorry, if he goes 12-4, wins the division, goes to the playoffs, there's no reason you don't re-sign him. I mean, if his contract year was the year he went 15-1, would you not re-sign him the year after that? There's no reason in taking a chance on somebody that's not proven versus somebody that's proven. But then it gives you the option before the new CBA kicks in to sign that quarterback next year, rookie quarterback, lock him in for 5 years before the new CBA starts. Because I guarantee you, the new CBA is going to be way more player friendly.
Yep.
Than the last one was.
I agree. You're not going to get no quarterback on no 5 years.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's another reason to give Cam one more chance, and then get a quarterback on that last year of the CBA. So.
But you won't. By that time, I bet you the new CBA kicks in by that point. But maybe I'm wrong. Next call.
Guys, Sir Mix-a-Lot was busy. And so he, I don't know how the hell he found old Joey Escobar, but he asked me over Twitter to ask y'all this question. He said, and his tweet was, "I like Jake Button, I cannot lie."
Oh,
wait,
my
what?
goodness.
Who the fuck is this guy?
We cannot deny that motherfucker ain't played no games. No games.
Yep. We never got to establish the butthole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we want to jump in the butthole.
What's up, Cat? Chronicle, C3 fan, what's up? This is Cody. What's up, Tony? My man, Cody. What's up, CK?
How's it going, brother?
And last but not least, Stat Daddy is in the house. What's up? What's up, fam?
What's up?
Yeah,
man?
I've been the show they talking about with the Tepper Cam thing. Here's my thing. And Cody, you was right when you were talking about the different like pro football folks that's all thinking Cam is acting like Cam is just some middle of the pack quarterback that blah, blah, blah. Well, Cody, I agree with you. It is a bunch of shit. But here is my proclamation, Sam.
Proclaim it.
If we make us the dump, okay, trading Cam is one thing, but if we trade Cam Newton just to try to draft one of these quarterbacks, if it ain't Tua or Burrow, which I know it won't be Burrow, then that will be, and we draft a quarterback in the first round. If we get another pick for Cam, that's got to be one of the stupidest draft moves we've made in a while. I mean, there's only like 2 good quarterbacks in this draft. Cody, I'm disappointed in you. When you gave your scenario, you said Justin Herbert. Really, Cody, that guy, Justin Herbert reminds me of Jesus, what's that one dude's name? You remember Keely Smith a long time ago? Where
Keely Smith.
He was an average quarterback in college. He wasn't really that good. His junior year his 1 year, that 1 year was better than the year he came out. Herbert is a one-hit wonder to me. He had a decent year last year. This year he was average.
Carl.
He reminds me of
in big games.
We don't need somebody that's not. If you're gonna get a Cam Newton replacement, you got to get a legitimate quarterback, and Herbert is not it. Who has Love? Please, Love is a developmental quarterback, and that is at the best. But yeah, I'm telling you now, boys, if Cam Newton leaves, I might leave with him. Whatever team he goes, I might follow.
Oh man.
If he goes, I will follow him.
Was that the end of the call?
So are we about to become a
He's
different
got a
podcast?
part 2. He's got a part 2.
Are we following Carl D?
No. Look, if Cam Newton goes, I will cheer for him. You know, it's going to be one of those things is I'm going to root for him personally to succeed. Unless he's an Atlanta Falcon.
Yeah,
if
that's
he becomes
a
an Atlanta Falcon, then
cross.
he's fucking dead to me. Like,
Or a Saint. Or a Saint.
It would
Those
be
are the
even
two.
worse.
Those are the two.
Yeah, you're right.
Even Tampa, even Tampa Bay. No, I was about to say even Tampa Bay. I don't really give a shit, to be honest, because
Patriots
I really
don't care.
Yeah, I really like Bruce Arians too, and I actually think Cam Newton would do pretty badass under Bruce Arians' offense. But yeah, the Saints or the Falcons, I cannot pull for Cam. Anywhere else, dude, I'm fucking all aboard that Cam Newton train. I mean, Panthers is still my number one team.
I may have an issue if he goes to the Redskins.
Yeah.
I might if he goes to the Cowboys. I would have an issue with that.
I'd be all right.
Cowboys.
See, I don't know. I just don't have.
I would continue to root for him to have personal success, and then root for those teams to not have success.
Dak Prescott and the Cowboys this year, right?
Or like it's kind of like one of those things that when you play when a team, when someone on your fantasy football lineup is playing the Panthers. And you're like, I really want them to have 140 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, but the Panthers still to win by 3. That's how I would feel about Cam Newton at another team. It's like I hope, like the only time I wouldn't cheer for him is if he was playing the Panthers.
Yeah,
and I still would be so resentful, depending on the situation. I might cheer for him. I mean,
imagine the scenario though. Yeah. Imagine the scenario that we're playing the team that Cam Newton ends up going to, and that team just beats our ass. And Cam Newton,
running around the stadium,
running the ball, throwing
snatching down signs and shit,
handing the ball to ex-team's fans, whatever,
dancing and dabbing and super camming, and we're like
trying to get the wave going.
That would just be absolutely miserable.
Hey, Real quick, Tony, before you move on to the next call, or whatever we're going to do next, I do want to point out we were just talking about the CBA a second ago, so I looked it up real quick while the call was going on, and I don't know if it would go from what I'm reading. Some things from the new CBA will go into effect immediately. Some things will take a year.
Okay.
But there are 9 issues right now that they're looking at that are major issues for the CBA. That's kind of what the reason why it's not been agreed upon yet.
Which they're very optimistic from what I hear that it's not going to result in a lockout. Yeah.
Yeah. From what I'm
Things like, but there are a lot of it's got to do with should we add a game 17?
Yeah, 17 games.
That's what's holding it up right now. And they're 18 game season, so it's revenue split, stadium credits, franchise tag and 5th-year option, 18 game season, lifetime health care, the drug policy, commissioner's power, player safety, and former player benefits are the 9 biggest issues in the CBA. None of that sounds like it's going to affect the game that much, maybe minus the franchise tag.
If you were a player, which on that list do you fight the hardest to achieve? I mean, not only one, but if there are a couple that stand out to you. For me, I think the franchise tag would be one that I would be fighting to get rid of. Number 2 is that I think that the lifetime health care is gotta be number 1 on their list. I would think that would be cooler than a greater revenue share, particularly for the guys that don't last as long. I don't know how many years you would have to play in the NFL to get it, but those would be my 2 if I'm a player. Is I'm fighting to get rid of the franchise tag, I'm fighting to get lifelong health care, and I'm trying to negotiate an 18-game season to a 17-game season.
I agree with you, man. Those 2 are the top 2 for me too, and the lifetime healthcare is so important, man. Like, I don't understand. Baseball does this. I mean, in baseball, you play, I think, 1 out in the major leagues, and you have healthcare for the rest of your life. You can play 1 out,
and those guys ain't getting like 27 surgeries.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe that's why it's easier for baseball to do it, because like they're like, oh, I've got a hang fucking nail. I got to miss 12 weeks. And then an NFL player like Mark Schlereth is going to come on and say, I've had 68 surgeries. And you're like, holy fuck, dude. Stop getting moles removed, man. How do you have that many surgeries? 28 surgeries, I think you said. That's crazy. All right, let's go on. Oh, here, let me pass the mic real quick. If you guys are fighting, what are the ones on the list? CK, what's on the list for you if you're a player that you're fighting for? Out of those, it was, I think, revenue share, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the easiest one. And how does that work? How does that truly work? What does the revenue share turn out to be? Because
I think it's got to be something that has to do with merchandise and like your, whatever your market share of what you've brought that team, right? You can tell, like, based on your jersey sales, what portion of the team's
But does it have to do with TV rights as well, and streaming rights, and the ownership 52%? Like, how does the player get it? Do they get a bonus check? Do they get it on a pension?
I've almost wondered, does this become a player-owned type of thing? Like, you know how there are some employers that do kind of like stock purchase programs and stuff like that. Or stock options and whatnot to have them be actual profit sharing, things like that within the within certain organizations. It has a lot to do with like stocks and owning part of the company. So I wonder if it has anything to do with that. Like, it might be a fraction of the company, or the team, but maybe they actually kind of get into partial ownership while they're on the team, and then when they leave, they can sell that share back to the owner or something crazy like that.
Well, honestly, I'm sitting here reading up on it right now. Can I tell you what I think it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
It says the current CBA provides that players share the revenue at an average of 47% of overall league revenue for the last 10 years of the deal. Players are pushing for a 60% league revenue deal where they can get 60% of the league's entire revenue, which would make them get more money than the owners.
I just want to know how they receive it, like how they.
What I think's going to happen is it goes into the salary cap. It raises the salary cap, guaranteeing bigger contracts. And I'm sure there will probably be more rules that you can't go into a season with X amount of money in your salary cap. Like you have to spend this much money. You know?
Can I guys? I know that a couple of guys on this podcast are fans of The Office.
Yep.
I would like to let you know that I have embarked on my Office journey, and I'm in season 4. I'm watching it.
So it's gotten really good now. Seasons like 3 and 4 are the best.
3 and 4, is that 1 and 2 thought you guys were overrating it. I'm serious. I thought, it's funny, but it's 3 and 4 is like right now it is the sweet spot. But
yeah, it really is.
Can I be
3? I think 3 maybe 6 are about the best episodes.
Can I be the Michael Scott of this podcast? And every time someone says the word,
you already are, Tony. You don't have to ask.
Matt Rule. I'm gonna say Matt Rule every time someone says the word rule, like and it's CBA Rule. Matt Rule. That's what she said. Michael Scott, and it's like still he never stops with the
Well, I'm glad we got you on board with it because you've kind of had to go in blind to the references that we've been making for the past year of being on the podcast. So
right now I'm trying to think. My favorite episodes are right now around this time. Is that what was my? All right, well, I'll keep going. Let's go to the next call. I'll think of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, my last call, I said I might follow Cam. But, I'm always cheer for Cam Newton. If it wasn't for Cam Newton, the Pats would still be in, we would still be like the Cleveland Browns were all the years. Mediocre. Good sweet. Yep. So, but I hope Tampa if Tampa raising ticket prices like that's a shame. If you raise your ticket prices like that and you're gonna get rid of Cam Newton, but our product, but put a bad product on the field because you kind of rebuild, and I'm gonna have to change my view of Tepper from. I'm gonna have to put him a label as a regular owner who don't give a damn about
that.
The fans for making a profit.
Wow.
But
all day. That's smoke.
That's him, Tepper. Go that route. But I don't know. You guys tell me. Y'all tell me what is y'all? If the Panthers do something stupid, get rid of Cam Newton, but don't have a backup plan, a great backup plan it has to be. If you're gonna get rid of Newton, then what are your guys gonna do? Y'all just stay put. Y'all gonna be pissed off. Y'all gonna follow Cam Newton wherever he goes. You're gonna remain a loyal Tampa fan.
I will follow him.
To David Tepper.
All right, thanks, Carl D. The question is this: ultimately, is David Tepper really just another owner? That's a scary fucking comment right there,
dude. It's like I said just a few minutes ago, man. There's really been nothing. There's not a lot of positives you can take out of Dave Tepper's tenure so far in Carolina.
He did take over a disaster. He did take over.
Well, no, he took over. He took over a team a year after being 15-1.
But it was amidst Friday. It was amidst.
No, he took over right before the 2018 season. So we had a bad season 2016. We went to the playoffs in 2017.
I thought he's been with us 3 years.
No, 2 years.
2020, isn't it?
Yeah,
is it 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years. So 2018, 2019.
But still, I think it's an interesting point is that right now we haven't seen, other than the field change and the bubble, we haven't had he's been very fun. He's been fun to this part. But, once you start talking about our boy Cam, all of a sudden, Mama Bear, that's what my friend on Pirate Radio calls me, is Cam's Mama Bear. My hair's standing up on the back of my neck ready to fight when you're talking about Cam. And then you hear shit like the It's really been. I mean, I guess this is the time you do it. You take the seats out. You fuck with people right now. You raise their ticket prices, and the story goes away later. Maybe.
Establish a new fan base.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, next call. Oh, favorite episode so far? Business School.
With Ryan.
I got two things to say. Both of them have to do with Cam Newton. Number one.
This is Joey Escobar. What's up, my man?
Do you know, really? Because, like, Cam Newton, they say, didn't y'all say that Joe Burrow's family was saying something about they're not so sure about him going to Cincinnati? Which actually seems weird because, you know, just a little bit ago they were saying, oh, we're
Brad Dugan with the comment of the
that's
night in the
irrelevant for
chat.
The Bengals, they're so archaic. I don't even think
the
they have
worst thing he's done.
Twitter. Like, I don't even think they have social media. Like, that's how archaic they are. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they do, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they don't. So, for all we know, the Bengals could take Chase Young from Ohio State because, oh, we're just going to stick with Dalton because, oh, well, we are content with being what we've always been. You know, we don't want to upgrade anything, even our roster.
Ron Rivera will trade up.
So, that's my point about the Bengals. No one knows what the Bengals are going to do. Not even beat reporters. No one. I don't even think the Bengals know what they're going to do. But, and number two, how about trading Cam Newton to the Chargers for their first-round pick this year and Thomas Davis? And we give them
Get Thomas Davis back.
whatever linebacker we have now.
That would be some shit, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't you love to have
It would. It'd be cool, though.
It would feel very bittersweet without Luke, but God, I think I would love to have TD back.
Maybe it'll bring Luke back.
I don't think. I mean, he didn't look bad, but I don't think I'd want him back at this point.
Brad Dugan also brings up the fact that David Tepper put ketchup on his steak. What has gone right? The honeymoon is over.
Apparently, this is a thing, and Patrick Mahomes does it too. Patrick Mahomes is a Super Bowl MVP. David Tepper's a billionaire. Dude,
maybe we're fucking off the mark, right?
Maybe we're the fucking losers that we're not smart enough to put ketchup on our steaks, man.
Here's the thing: is we don't got the D's big enough to walk into a Ruth Chris and order a $85 steak and ask for the fucking Heinz for whatever the Hunts. Or the fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's right.
Would you like some A1? No, thank you.
You should get slapped in the face, dude. I went to Johnson & Wells in Charlotte and Charleston Culinary School. I love cooking. If you put a damn ketchup on your steak, you should be slapped in the damn face.
If it turns out that's what poor people think.
Or
rich people get to do whatever the fuck they want. They could put whipped cream on that bitch and be like, ha ha, motherfuckers.
Syrup sandwich.
I just took this $100 steak and I fucking put it on white Wonder Bread and ate it as a sandwich. That's what you can do when you're a billionaire, I guess. Do you hear off topic, but Jeff Bezos, they were asking him, like, what the fuck do you do when you're 127 billionaire? And by the way, that is 10 times more rich than fucking Tepper is, or whatever. He said at this point, he said at this point, I really have nothing to do but to pour my money into my space hobby.
My space hobby.
Like, I'm into this space shit, I guess. Like, I'm gonna fucking catch up with that Elon Musk asshole.
I'd like to play with asteroids.
Next call.
I got two things.
Oh, we already did this one. Next one.
So, it's almost 10 o'clock as
no, it's almost 11:30, Joey Escobar, and we will not shut the fuck up.
At the rate we're going, which is fine because I love talking about Panthers football, and really, I wouldn't mind going until 6 a.m.
Oh,
That's what she said.
I'm off tomorrow. Let's do
Go
it.
big or go home, right?
There you go.
And we certainly went home last season, and I don't think we want to do that again. But I was going to say, since it never got acknowledged on the chat room, why don't we sign Bradbury for 10 years just to piss Brandon Herbert off? Like, did he like
give him the Bobby Bonilla
over, like, one of our
contract?
recent losses or something? Like, I don't know.
Oh, that's a good way to end the calls.
He needs to call, let us know he's okay. Ice me up for saying sign Bradbury for 10 years. I just wanted
No,
to get a reaction.
Brandon Herbert just fucking blew a gasket,
You know.
man. Love
That's
it.
probably my last
Thank you,
call.
Joey. So you dropped the Michael Scott reference. You dropped Michael's my favorite, and I don't know if I should say it on television, but when he called home, he said, "You don't call a retarded person retarded. You call your friends retarded when they're acting retarded." Oh God! Because he called oh boy faggy.
Yeah, Oscar.
Oh, he's grown on me, man. It's kind of like I feel like The Office is kind of gonna be my Zoolander.
You grow with those characters, you really do. Yeah.
Gotta
You know what I
watch
felt
it again.
Watching the David Tepper interview reminded me, for whatever reason, like of Oscar when he was denying that he was gay. I'm not gay. I'm not. And then within that, right at the end, he just got so tired of it. He's like,
"Yeah, I'm gay.
Yeah, I'm gay." Like,
Dude.
I was really hoping that was gonna drop there at the end. Like,
all right, I got a
We're
question
keeping
for you, CK. You have talked about this Office Girls podcast. I tried to listen to the first episode. It was so boring.
I think you have to probably watch every episode of The Office 3 or 4 times before you really.
because you're actually looking at all the little things that they're talking about. Oh my gosh, did I miss that? Because you think you know everything about it. Like I'm not even kidding with you when I tell you this, Tony. I watch The Office probably twice a year, the entire season.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think actually the way I judge if I like an episode or like how much I like an episode is like based on how good the prank on Dwight is.
Yeah.
And I love Dwight. Like I fucking love Dwight. I love Dwight. But I tell you, the 2 pranks that have just fucking got me off of my rocker is when they talked to him from the computer and he thought the computer had come to life. That shit fucking...
I watched that episode last night. Yeah.
And what was the other one? There was another prank they did on him and I just lost it. I was just like, oh, but okay. Anyway, we're off topic. It's 11:30.
On my podcast, we call this chasing squirrels. Just so you know, that's what we just do.
Okay.
We just chase a squirrel.
Okay. Oh gosh, we're chasing Dwight.
The chat they have never even watched The Office. We're boring Brad Dugan at this point.
Okay. Well, look, I fought it, Brad. I fought it. I fought it, and I fought it, and I fought it, and I've started watching it. I would say this is get to 3/4 of season 2.
Yeah, 100%.
And then it really starts. I think we're starting to hit what I believe makes good television, and why. No, I think that it's about character development. You know, as I'm starting to become invested in people, like I like Dwight, I like Michael, I want to fuck Jan. Like all of these things are going on in my head.
Now I feel like we're on my podcast. We're sitting here breaking down a television show.
Okay, all right, let's get on. All right, okay, so guys, the last thing is quickly, are there any rules from the XFL or things that you saw in this past week that you think will influence the NFL? I heard a great discussion, and I forget which Fox Sports radio show it was on because I listen to radio when I'm riding around a lot of times, and they were saying this: is that right now the XFL has a product that is kind of differentiated itself from the NFL a little bit. Like it's NFL, but it has some things that are really cool that could be built upon. But what happens if the league you're trying to compete with steals your ideas? I.e., make some changes to the kickoff, make some changes to how they do the booth review, make some changes how they're going to do the extra point. Can they steal the thunder and that newness or novelty of the XFL? So with that being said, are there any XFL rules that you think creep into, and AAF rules that creep into the NFL after and do you guys really think the XFL is going to work? Vince McMahon says 3 years. He's funding it for 3 years no matter what.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. You have to have the ability to get people involved for more than one season, right? That's the issue. People are hesitant to put their effort. I mean, let's be honest. An entire season of the NFL is exhausting, right? When you sit there and think about it. We miss it when it's not around, but it is exhausting.
For us?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nothing like a basketball or a baseball season. I think it's perfect.
Correct.
And that's why I'm worried about them adding more games, to be honest. Is like I am ready for Sundays where I get to like clean my fucking kitchen.
I would like, because the 17-game season is the consensus on where it's probably going to fall. I'd be interested to see how they make that 17, because that means that either one person has an extra home game or they have to figure out a neutral ground in which these teams are going to be playing.
Right.
Which may be London or Canada or something crazy. But nonetheless, I think I really and honestly I believe with this, what we see with the NFL is the frustration with the officiating. A lot of people feel like, a lot of people feel like the way that the games have been officiated, not only just this past year but for the past decade, has dictated the way that the seasons have ended. So and that's what if you look at Green Bay, we're going to talk about this for a second. They had an astronomical amount of things fall their way
for a decade.
Astronomical,
for a whole decade.
And so when you see that and you try to actually make this to be able to see what's going through their mind, to make that justification, to see the way that these alternative leagues were utilizing the official review as a way of saying, hey, let's make sure the viewers are in on this to see why we made this decision, that it's not just about we think that this is the case. It's, we're human beings. We're seeing just what you see, and we have to try to be as unbiased about this as possible. And I think that also not only does it abate the frustrations fans have, but I think it also makes them more consistent
honest
with what they're calling. Yeah,
has to be.
And
has to
not being biased towards one side or the other, because now they're in the public view of why they're making that decision. It's not just, all right, we're going to say this from our safety of our broadcasting area in New York, and then we're going to have these refs on the field be the people who are handling, having to deal with the wrath of it. Because when they do an official review, it's not up to the field judge, it's up to New York. And so, but who do we blame? Is that ref right there in front of them? So I think I like that transparency a lot. I think that goes hand in hand. But I'll let somebody else take the kickoff.
Well, for me, I think that the XFL well. I like the kickoff rule. I don't know if we're talking about a rule or if we think about the XFL is going to survive, but I like the kickoff rule. I think that kickoff, the way they do it in the XFL, is going to be interpreted in the NFL because it's a way to still have kickoffs and have player safety. It's going to, which is
great, because I think that's a great point, Greg. Because it's I'm kind of irritated about the talk of them working returns out of the game.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to be an asshole for not making things better.
Right.
Like
and,
for
and this
players.
rule actually kind of fixes both those problems, which is cool. But I think the XFL is going to survive for a couple of reasons. or not more than a couple. One, it's Vince McMahon. The guys, and I'm a big wrestling fan growing up.
He's an
David's,
East
you know,
Carolina
still little now.
University alumni, which is my alma mater and where I live at.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. But he's an amazing businessman. He knows how to entertain. He does. He takes a fake sport and makes it a worldwide phenomenon. A fake sport. Not saying that these guys aren't really doing
this
this what
puts
they're doing.
ketchup on the steak, and all of a sudden everybody does it.
Yeah, he produces movie stars from his business. He knows what he's doing. Okay, so I think with that being said, he's gonna be successful. He's also been through this before, knows his pitfalls, knows why he failed last time. He's gonna avoid all that this time. He has the money to back it. He's already supported it 3 years, so he's not gonna run into the problem the AAF had of not being able to fund what's going on. Even if they don't have ticket sales and make money in the next 3 years, he has the money to fund it going
yeah,
on.
that's what I've heard. He's also got a TV deal right now that is with the networks.
With two, you got the Fox and ESPN.
Fox and exactly. And even if it folds, he's still got the WWE fall back on. He's okay.
Which I also heard, should Jeff Bezos buy the WWE? That's what another thing I've heard.
I don't think Vince McMahon will ever sell it, to be honest with you. Why? Why would you? It's your golden goose, man.
Yeah.
You
agree.
rule the wrestling world. Why would you do that? You're but 3, I think that and I was telling Cody this earlier. What the XFL did was they sat back and they learned from the mistakes they made last time. They took the same game the NFL does, and they looked at everything that the fans were complaining about in the NFL. Because here's the thing about the NFL: it's a monopoly. If you like football, you're going to watch the NFL. Period. You're not going to go watch regular football.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if your team gets fucked by a flag or whatever. You're just coming back.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to watch football. Okay, period. But when another franchise like the XFL comes in and they say, okay, the NFL fans don't like this and this and this, we're going to change that. Well, even though you have 8 teams and it's a brand new thing, a lot of people might be like, well, I'd kind of like to see it the way I want it to be, or see this problem be fixed. And they're doing a good job of attacking that. I think the XFL is going to succeed. I don't know if they'll ever compete with the NFL as far as money goes, but I think that in the future, the XFL is going to be the minor leagues for the NFL.
If they could rob some players, man, will be interesting to see what happens.
I think I think that this would be, and they talked about it being a developmental league, right? And it's not necessarily just about competing with the NFL. That's why they're not having the games on the same weekends the NFL is, because they know they're not going to win that. They're basically trying to provide, especially being that this is before the draft, right? You know, they have all of these players, and if there's an opportunity, if they can actually get the NFL Players Association to actually sign off on the
never going to happen. It's not going to happen.
If they could, I'm saying as a kind of like a minor league. I mean, you're giving guys jobs that don't have jobs, right? At the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're giving guys opportunities they haven't had.
Nobody's given them. AFL, though, signed people like Herschel Walker. They signed Steve Young. What the XFL may be trying to do is, can we get Trevor Lawrence a year before he goes into the NFL?
Well,
when they get one college player that says, fuck this, I'm ready to go and make $800,000 instead of playing my junior year in college, the NFL will not take me. Wow. That's going to be
it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen.
It's got to happen because there are so many cats that are dying to make, like, would you fault someone if they were a music major in college and someone offered them a $500,000 paycheck the next year?
Not at all.
That's dip out.
I think the XFL is going to do one of two things to college football. It's either going to kill college football altogether, because if I'm getting out of high school and I'm a top prospect,
I don't think they have fucked those rules up. You can't come straight out of high school in the XFL yet. I think you still have to do 2 years in college. 2 years.
Okay.
It's
I didn't know
3
that.
years for the
everything.
NFL, though, I think.
Okay.
So I'm interested. Cody,
that kills my argument.
Cody, anything about the XFL that you think could influence the NFL?
I mean, I like how in depth it is. They're trying to really get in the huddle and let you hear the.
Can they keep that up, Cody? Can they really keep that up? I'm worried about that. I like it, but I'm worried about it.
That was one of the things I liked the most. But I feel like eventually you're gonna run into problems of
you have to change your calls every week.
You're hearing a play call. I don't know how that would work. But I don't know. I mean, even small changes like the one that stuck out the most, and you guys already mentioned it, is the kickoff rule. I think over time, I mean, if it's healthier for the players and it allows for more, potential to take it to the house, I'm in for it. But other than that, I mean, nothing yet has kind of been.
Did you even watch it? Did you watch any of it?
Well, okay, I did because Greg Olson was commentating.
Oh, you watched that one? I didn't watch that. Yeah. Was he good?
No, I watched a little bit of two of them. And,
was he good? Was Greg Olson good?
Oh, he was incredible. Okay. Greg Olson is great every time he's on there. He's insightful. He provides real knowledgeable information about football and what you're watching. He's not just some Booger McFarlane idiot. The other team has to score more points in order to win.
Yeah,
hey, cool, Booger. So glad you're here, dude. But yeah, man. I'm not, like I said, I'm not ever about to be a fan of the XFL, man. Listen, I have
until Trevor Lawrence forgoes his junior season and goes into the XFL, and all of a sudden you will be a Dallas Renegades fan with me.
Yeah, get back with me when that happens.
Okay.
And until then, I don't know. I think I'll just watch the highlights on Twitter.
All right, let's get out of here tonight. At Will's my last comment about The Office, I remembered the favorite prank. My favorite prank so far on Dwight has been when they made him think that tomorrow was Saturday and tomorrow was Friday. That is my favorite prank, and that one they sold it really well. All right, so it's the C3 Panthers podcast. We're live on Tuesday nights. When we have nothing to talk about, we go 3 hours. Check us out next Tuesday when we have nothing to talk about and we try to go for 4 hours. And like Joey Escovel said, 6 hours. Hit him up, CK.
That's what she said.
All right. So now we're going to get to the final segment of the show, which she did not say. Ice up, son. She said heat up, son. No, it's the Ice Up, son segment of the week where we try to where it's free reign. It's where it's our homage to Steve Smith. We tell someone to ice up, toughen up, to get it together. Cody, I should ice up polls, but I'll let you ice up whatever you want.
We all know who's going to be the last one to be iced up, I think. But, listen, I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I could talk just as long about MMA as I could about football. I've been a diehard MMA fan since I was 15. And this past weekend, Dominic Reyes fought John Jones. And just for some context here, John Jones is probably the best fighter that I've ever seen in my life. Everything that he's done, his body of work, the guy is an all-time great, and he's like 32 years old. With that said, I have never in my life scored a fight in a decision for anyone other than John Jones. So every time John Jones ever went to a decision, I thought John Jones won the fight, even in some of his more back and forth fights. Well, this Saturday night, Dominic Reyes, in my mind, kicked John Jones's ass for 3 rounds. Now, granted, John Jones did win the final 2 championship rounds pretty handily, but John Jones would go on to win the fight by unanimous decision, and one of the judges scored the card 4 rounds to 1 for John Jones. And this is such a problem in MMA where these judges have no idea what they're looking at. They really should not be in a position to judge fights. because Dominic Reyes did something that no one else has ever done. He put it to John Jones, and he should have won a decision. But now because of these incredibly incompetent judges, I mean, he might never get the chance to be that close to beat John Jones ever again. And he's going to have to do it all over. I just think it's so stupid. And yeah, man, to all these incompetent judges in both MMA and boxing that take the victory away from the rightful winner, that's bullshit, man. So to all the judges in the state of Texas that officiated that fight, ice up, son.
All right. My ice up pick this week goes to someone who I love. Someone who has brought me through the moments of puberty. Elizabeth Hurley. My fucking favorite. Elizabeth Hurley. I've got two. Elizabeth Hurley and, hold up, what was Katie Holmes. These are my two. Well, just got a thing for. Elizabeth Hurley says at 54, claims she is much too old to wear a two-piece bikini at the beach. She says she will wear it in private, but she will not. She's too old to wear and by her own swimwear line at the beach. And let me tell you this: is go look at her fucking Instagram, baby girl, which is not baby girl.
How old is this? A nice up pick?
She's 54 years old, baby girl. Not wearing a bikini in public is a disservice to all of us. You are still freaking amazing, woman. And the only thing I will say is get that hair back to that dark hair color you used to have back in the day. But other than that, you keep doing what you're doing, except for going to these one pieces in public. Not into that. Elizabeth Hurley, you're still phenomenal. And guess what? Take that, Nick Montero, out of the closet on that. Ice up to Elizabeth Hurley feeling old and not as sexy as she is.
Good ice up.
Ice up.
I gotta ice myself up.
I mean, they say
literally
women,
put some ice.
They say,
yeah, I'd say after that you need to ice yourself up for sure. Go to the bathroom and do that, Tony.
Woo! It's hot.
They say that women age like wine and men age like cheese.
No, that's actually usually men do age pretty well. At least in the movie business, right? Clooney.
If you're rich,
if you're in the movie business, you better age well no matter what you are.
Gray hair makes you distinguished as a male. As a woman, it's usually not. They're trying to hold on to their youth a little bit more. The old guy can be an old, good-looking dude. A little bit easier is my thing. But maybe you're right. All I know is this: is Elizabeth Hurley. I want to drink your wine.
Look, Tony, Brett Tony's maybe doing more than icing her up, if you know what I mean.
That's right. That's right. All right, I will ice her old ass up. If she got an achy butt bone, I am there to ice it up. All right, who wants this?
Oh gosh.
Okay, you want?
No, you guys go. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's
cool.
left? Greg.
I got one here. This one's off the wall for me, but I'm icing up PETA.
2 weeks in a row, PETA gets ice up.
Did they get iced up last week? What did you ice them up for? Am I the same thing? I hope not.
Who was it that got him last week? Wasn't it Cody?
Nah, not me.
No. Oh no. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't want to do the same one. Well, okay. So PETA does a bunch of crazy shit, y'all. Like I don't know what they're thinking. Like
they're fucking.
Let's get this straight.
Ignoramuses.
They are, man. Like
here's my favorite story about PETA is one lady one time who was a CEO or president or whatever the fuck, volunteer CEO of PETA, said that she wanted to have her body symbolically barbecued to fight people who eat meat.
Why?
All right, okay, carry on. Sorry.
But no, like PETA, they're morons. And like, look, I'm sorry, PETA, but like your argument against animals is they're living, breathing creatures. They don't deserve to be eaten. This and that. I get that. Like certain animals don't. I don't want to eat a dog. I don't want to eat a cat. They're my pets. Okay. But guess what else is living and breathing living and breathing organisms? Plants.
Fire ants.
So what the hell do you want us to eat? Like, if we don't eat animals, plants. But that's not my ISUP. My ISUP is they came out with an announcement last week. And this is after they've already said they wanted fish to be called sea kittens, so that way people wouldn't eat them. Because we're so stupid that if we could change the name of fish to kittens, we won't want to eat them. Like, I don't know why they're thinking we're so dumb.
No, we'll start eating land kittens next.
Right. They came out with a statement last week saying they wanted people to stop calling their pets.
Oh, I heard this. Yeah. Okay.
Because to the pet it is derogatory and condescending. Okay. So I
they
own
are
dogs.
your
I
slaves.
love animals. I've had fish. I've had cats. I love animals. I'm an animal lover, man. I really am. I've never had an animal that knew what condescending meant. Or derogatory, or that cared that I called him pet. It's absolutely ridiculous. But here's the thing: they don't want you to call them pets anymore. They want you to call them companions. Okay? And I'm going to steal this joke from where I heard this story from, which is the Woody and Wilcox show. Great show out of Charlotte. Do you really want to tell your friends that you're watching your companion lick her crotch all night?
I walk my companion and look at his butthole for 12 minutes to see if he's going to shit.
Right. My companion drug her ass across the ground, across the carpet. I had to take my companion outside to shit. Do you really want to say that?
My companion wants to wear a one-piece bathing suit. Oh, sorry.
Well, here's my thing. If you think that your pets can understand the difference in derogatory and condescending things, then they can also understand when you're lying to them and calling them a companion. So, to PETA, y'all are a bunch of morons. You waste your time doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. Nobody care. Well, people obviously
look, it's my
care.
little asshole companion Chase that just walked in the room.
Right, exactly.
He probably just tipped
So
the
to
trash
PETA,
can over.
To PETA, go ahead and ice up, man, because y'all are a bunch of morons.
All right. See, I'm with you, man.
Isn't pet in their name? Like, isn't PETA?
Yes, pet is in their name. PETA.
Anyway, but also, I feel like if I start calling my dog my companion, people are gonna think I'm fucking her.
Right, exactly.
Sorry for that.
Except for
I'm telling you, my
PETA
longest running joke is I've never looked so intently at somebody's asshole than my dog's. Like, I walk my dog and I'm like, oh, I'm watching his asshole. Like, I think he's got a shit. Come on, maybe he's got a shit. Come on, I'm watching him shit, and it's like, God, this is fucking weird.
But anyway, my ISUP pick could be quite simple. I mentioned it earlier, and I think Cody, you told me that this should be my ISUP pick tonight. But anybody who believes Taysom Hill is their franchise quarterback is just completely lost their mind.
They also call their pets companions.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And
so
this is my companion franchise quarterback.
The story is that the New Orleans Saints believe with every fiber of their being that Taysom Hill is the future of their organization, right?
That's why they started Teddy Bridgewater instead, right?
Yeah, correct, right? And you look at all this. Let's also look at the fact that Taysom Hill is just about the same age as Cam Newton. So you're not talking about somebody who's been in the league for 7-8 years now. He's not a spring chicken, as they say. And he's under the impression he wants to leave if New Orleans isn't going to be playing him as a starter. And I'm just saying, you've created this arrogance, man. You've thrown 15 balls in the NFL in like 7 or 8 years, like in a real game. It's absolutely asinine for you to believe that you're going to be something special in this league. So you've been on the Saints team for longer than Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy Bridgewater was still their go-to when they had to have a starting quarterback for 5 games this year.
Except for 6 passes.
Yeah. So the reality of the situation is Taysom Hill has shown little to no evidence that he has the ability to be a franchise quarterback that can command a huddle, that can command an offense, and put himself in a position to be a successful QB in this league. So for the New Orleans Saints trying to do everything they can to demonetize Teddy Bridgewater's or maybe lesser his place of power with negotiation, I say ice up, son. If they let Teddy Bridgewater go, my last statement, that'll be something they regret for a decade.
Yeah.
So what Taysom Hill is saying is, don't fucking call me a gadget player, call me a companion.
Yeah. There you go.
By the way, Mohamed Sanu has better stats as a quarterback than Taysom Hill does. So
And you know what? He sucks as a wide receiver. Maybe he should be trying to take fucking Tom Brady's job.
He's calling New Orleans. He's like, hey, guys, you think he's going to be a franchise quarterback?
Yeah. You see Taysom Hill become a New Orleans franchise quarterback. I can become the Patriots franchise quarterback after Tom Brady leaves.
I mean, you've seen me catch the ball, but have you seen me throw this fucking?
Don't call me a gadget. I'm fucking Bill Belichick's companion, motherfucker.
Hey, Cody, you know that Christian McCaffrey has one pass in the NFL, and he has better stats than.
I think he has two now.
Does. Oh, does he have two?
Gosh.
Either way, he's 50% for 60 yards and a touchdown. That's better than Taysom Hill.
All right, it's midnight. Let's get the fuck out of here. It's midnight. C3 Panthers podcast, Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. till she said. That's what she said.
Yeah.
And the guys, I'm at cat_chronicles. I know Draft Tech's coming out with a new mock draft. Cody, who'd you pick and where can they follow you?
Yeah, so tomorrow I am previewing Derek Brown as our selection in a brand new mock draft that will be live on Draft Tech tomorrow. Go check it out. There is a second round pick for the Panthers. It's all 7 rounds. So you don't have to just, you can
keep clicking, Muggs. Keep clicking.
Yeah, that's it. Check out the draft. Let me know what you think about the players I have us selecting. And it'll be brand new every Wednesday on drafttech.com. And you can find me on Twitter at CodyLac, CODYLAC, talking bullshit.
Greg's got the Civil Servant Podcast, the Super Civil Servant Podcast. Forgive me for the abbreviated name. Greg, where can they follow you on Twitter?
Same way, man. At the Bad Daddy 52 on Twitter, or you can hit me up on my other show. It's at SCS1, at SCS Podcast 1 on Twitter. We talk movies, TV shows, stuff like that. Right now, we're doing Clone Wars, and we did a review on Birds of Prey last week. Which, if you haven't seen that movie, go check it out. It's a fun movie. Don't take your kids.
Chasing Squirrels on that podcast. And CK, how can they follow you? You don't want to call from CK from work, but you want to follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter for no other reason than I'm asking you to. It is at
that's at what she said.
At Codizzle Allen. I have a question for Greg though. Did somebody else have the SCS podcast? And you had to add the one.
That's why I had to put one on there.
What was that other podcast?
No idea. I just saw it was taken, and I was like, okay, I'll just add a one to it.
Let's go find them.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, beat them up.
All right, that's the C3 Panthers podcast. We're out of here. Cody, everybody's got to go sleep. Y'all, take it easy. We'll see you next week.